34-year-old cashier, Angela Mantha, is suing her mother, cabinet maker Storm Linnell, for filing false charges with Child Protective Services. Storm says Angela's fiancé is physically abusive.
Judges, is case number 352 on the calendar in the matter of Mantha versus Linnell. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks have seats, please.
Miss Mantha, this is your mom.
Yes.
And your complaint says that your mom filed false charges against you with Child Protective Services involving your daughter, who is how old?
6.
And you want to be compensated for your aggravation.
Yeah.
Your mother says she had legitimate concerns for your daughter's safety. Mm-hmm. And she had at some point been the caretaker for that child. Is that right?
Yes.
And that's why she called Child Protective Services to do an investigation. So I have to get some facts. Is this your only child?
No, I have a 9-month-old son also.
Who's the father of that child?
Jason.
This is Jason.
Yes.
Jason, you stand up there because I may have some questions for you. How old are you?
I'm 24.
Now, your daughter was born when you were 18.
Yes.
Where is her father?
He's incarcerated right now.
So that was a big mistake.
Yeah.
And when did your daughter go and live with your mother?
She was probably 14 or 15 months old. It was right after her first birthday.
What's her name?
Jasmine.
Why did Jasmine go and live with your mother?
At the time, I didn't have a stable place for her to stay. I was living with my boyfriend, who was an alcoholic, and he had friends in and out of the house all hours of the night. I didn't have my own job, so I couldn't take care of myself and support us on my own, and it wasn't a good place for my daughter to be.
Were you doing any drugs or alcohol?
I was drinking a lot.
Was the child removed from your custody by the state, or was this initially voluntary?
Voluntary.
Was the state ever involved in placement of your daughter with your mother? How long did Jasmine stay with your mother?
6 months.
And then the boyfriend went to jail? Or you left?
I just left. I moved out of there. I decided it was time for me to be a mother, and I moved back in with my mother and my daughter.
And how long did you stay?
6 or 7 months, maybe.
And
just long enough for me to get a job and get out on my own.
And your mother let you take your daughter?
Yes.
With no fight?
No fight.
So far, I got it. You were off track, came back home, you got on track, your mother was there for you. Mm-hmm. She was there for you to pick up the slack, taking on the responsibility of a toddler, took on you as a responsibility when you moved home. She saw that you had gotten it together, you moved out with your daughter, moved into your own place?
Yes. No
boyfriend?
At the time, no.
Then what happened?
I moved out for a while. I had actually moved in with a coworker of mine. At that time, that was probably the first time that my mother had called CPS on me.
Why do you think she did that?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I don't really know.
Who was this coworker? Male?
Yes.
Maybe she didn't approve.
She knows who he is.
Is he a good person?
Yes, he is.
And how long did you live with?
Actually, probably about a month and a half.
And then where did you go?
Back to my mom's.
Because that didn't work out?
Right.
Went back to your mom's, and how long did you stay with your mother?
After that, probably 4 or 5 months, maybe.
Then where did you go?
Then I got my own place again.
How long did you have your own place?
I stayed there for 9 months.
Then what happened?
I moved out, and I moved in with my Aunt Becky, actually. And I stayed with her for probably about a month. That's when I met him, and we found our own place.
How long did you know Jason before you moved in with him?
A year and a half, maybe 2 years. I worked with him also.
What kind of work do you do, Jason?
Right now, I drive a garbage truck.
You have children?
Yes.
How many?
3.
Including the 9-month-old?
Mm-hmm.
Where are your other 2 children?
One is living in Bangor with his mother, and the other is in Tennessee.
Were you married to either of those 2 ladies?
My second child, I was married to her.
How old are you?
27.
So you're 27. You have 3 children. 2 of them you don't see.
One of them I see every weekend. During the summer, I see him every other week.
So only one of them you don't see?
Yes.
You support the other 2 children?
I pay child support every week.
For both of them?
Yes.
Okay. You would acknowledge to me, would you not, that you have not had a stable life thus far, is that right?
That's correct.
And that if your mother had concerns about you, they would be legitimate concerns based upon your history, right?
Yeah, yes.
Why did you call Child Protective Services the last time, and when was it? if you'd like to tell me.
Mid-September of this year.
Tell me why.
Well, there's been an ongoing situation with Jasmine saying that Jason has been mean to her.
Has she been more specific?
Just that he's been physically mean to her twice.
Well, she didn't use the word physically.
No. He grabbed her by the back neck and ran her into the bedroom one time.
You mean like this?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And once he had smacked her on the back of the head like this. That's how she explained it.
Okay.
You know, I was worried about that, but I tried talking to Jasmine. I said, you could talk to Mama about this. Let Mama know what's going on. She says, I do, but Mama gets mad at me if I tell her Jason's mean to me. And I says, well, I'll talk to Mama. Well, I tried talking to Mama about things that have been going on. Mama don't want to listen to me.
You mean those two things? Was there anything else?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
yes,
I'd like to know what else.
Well, I was taking my, you know, I have my granddaughter a lot, sometimes up to 4 times a week over weekends. On several occasions during the last few months, when she was time for her to go home, she hang right on to me. Please, Mammy, I don't want to go. I don't want to stay. Her mother literally had to peel her off of me to keep her in her home, as she said she was afraid of Jason. And then on an occasion in August, Angela had gone out with a bunch of her girlfriends, and one of them happened to be my future daughter-in-law. And Sharon,
your
my
future
daughter, she is my daughter-in-law now, had come to me and told me that on that occasion, when they were getting ready to leave, Jasmine clung onto my daughter, holding on to her, saying, Mom, please don't leave me with Jason. And they literally peeled her off of Angela, left her with Jason, and went out drinking anyways. Now, this has been an ongoing situation since Angela's been 17. She had her baby when she was 17, Your Honor. She turned 18 a month later. That left me responsible for...
Oh, I understand. So that's the reason that you called Child Protective Services. So, let me hear you.
History.
Your Honor, I talk to my daughter a lot. We have a good relationship together. She has never told me anything like that. She has not said anything about Jason. She's always talked good about him. She's here right now. I would love to have you talk to her if you would do that.
Mm-hmm. I will.
I would like you to.
Sure.
When Child Protective Services came and did their investigation, did they give you any sort of a report afterwards?
Yep. I have a closing statement and I have the assessment. I also have a copy of a random drug test that they give Jason at his work, just because she says we have excessive drug and alcohol use in the home.
Okay, just hold on to those things. I'm going to go and speak to Jasmine. Why don't you all have a seat for a couple of minutes?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You leave with her, you stay someplace else for a month, then you come back to your mother, then you leave your mother, then you go back to your aunt. So this child at age 6 has had absolutely zero stability. Fair statement?
No, Your Honor.
Of course it is.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Angela Mantha says her mother, Storm Linnell, filed false charges with Child Protective Services. Storm says she was worried about her granddaughter.
Jasmine really didn't want to talk to me. She's a little upset. I think she's upset because, you know, she's in a strange place and she knows that this is all about her. She probably knows that there's been a lot of friction because of, she views it because of things that she says.
She loves my mother. She really does.
Oh, well, there's no question in my
really
mind she loves her mother. Okay, so let's talk about objectively what we have. First, let me see the closing statement from Child Protective Services.
His drug test is in there, too. I don't know if you want that, but...
Okay. Do you think that your mother maliciously called Child Protective Services?
Yes, I do.
Tell me why you believe that your mother maliciously called Child Protective Services.
Because during the last fight that we had when we was all at my Aunt Becky's house, she told me right then and there that she was going to do anything in her power to get Jasmine. What that means, I don't know.
Well, in what context did she say that to you?
Well, we were fighting.
What were you fighting about?
What happened is when I come in, I was on the road all day. I had a lot of doctor's appointments and stuff, and I had my son with me, who was 9 months old. And I brought him in to feed him and change him. And I don't smoke around my son, and when I walked in, everybody put out their cigarettes. Well, I guess a guy that was there, Kevin, still had a cigarette going. I did not see him with a cigarette in his hand. And then my mother lit up a cigarette, so I just started packing the stuff up, and I was just going to leave. I didn't want to start anything. And she just
This was at your aunt's house?
This is at my Aunt Becky's house, yes. And that's when she started in. She's like, well, I don't know why you didn't say anything to Kevin about him smoking. And I was like, I didn't see him with a cigarette. I really didn't. If I had seen him, I would have said something to him.
Go ahead.
And that's when it all started, and we exchanged some words back and forth. She's talking about how I'm not a very good mom, and this and that, and she looked at me, she's like, I will get Jasmine, I will do anything to get her.
Well, that wasn't the first time that your mother has called Child Protective Services.
No. I've had Child Protective Services call them like 3 times. 2 for a fact I know with my mother.
Any of them when you were living with Jasmine when she was a baby?
No. The first time is when I first moved back from Bingham. I think that my mother might have moved out and I was renting her place from her. Myself and my girlfriend Amanda and Jasmine were living there. That was the first time CPS was at my house. The second time is when I moved to Joe with my girlfriend Amanda and Jasmine. Mm-hmm. And that's
that lasted for a month before you moved out, if my memory is correct.
And he was only at my house once, and he left and he never come back. I don't know what happened to that.
I don't know either.
No.
I don't get the sense that your mother called maliciously.
No.
No. I mean, for the first 14 months, you were not living in a reasonable relationship because you were drinking. Father of the child was drinking.
No,
There isn't a question in my mind that during the initial period of her life, the child was neglected. Then she goes to stay with your mother. You come back and stay with your mother. Then you leave with her. Then you stay someplace else for a month, someplace else for 5 months. Then you come back to your mother. Then you leave your mother. Then you go back to your aunt. So this child at age 6 has absolutely zero stability. Fair statement?
No, Your Honor.
Of course it is. I mean, just look at it. I'm looking at it objectively. The child has had, in 6 years, no stability. She's had Joe, she's had Jason, she's had her father, she's had I don't know who else. She's had her mother, she's had her grandmother, she's had her aunt. At age 6, she's had no stability. So I'm telling you as an outsider that thus far as a mother, you have not been terrific.
That's fair.
Then you hook up with Jason, who is in his 20s, who already has had 2 major mistakes. One a marriage, one an out-of-wedlock child. And I don't know anything else about him. But I do know that there is cause for concern because your track record's not terrific.
To be honest, you know, I never said that I was a great mom when my daughter was a baby, because I wasn't. But for the past 3.5 years, I've provided a more than stable home. I've been working full-time, or, well, part-time. I have a beautiful home, transportation. She's in school, she's healthy. She's in soccer and Girl Scouts. I do a lot with the school for her. My whole life revolves around her now.
No, well, it doesn't revolve around her. It revolves around her and a 9-month-old.
Well,
and his child who's there all the time.
Exactly.
According to you.
But I treat all the children the same. I don't give anybody special attention. That's a problem?
Yeah. In your daughter's eyes, that's a problem. If you treat everybody the same. It just is. That doesn't mean she's right. She's 6 years old. But she had her grandmother, who was her focus. Mm-hmm. You've taken that away from her. Because according to what I read, she doesn't see her grandmother anymore.
She hasn't for 2 months.
According to this. So that's true. So she hasn't seen her grandmother in 2 months, so you've taken that piece of stability away from her. Now, I'm not saying that she was Mother of the Year, because according to what I read, you had some problems yourself. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Series of relationships that went nowhere?
No, ma'am.
Well, according to your daughter, that's true, that your husband was killed?
Yes, sir.
And that after your husband,
13.
you had a series of relationships?
I've had 2.
That were in some way abusive and or alcoholic?
That's why he's gone.
Well, it doesn't make any difference.
Yes,
It was
you're
there
right.
with your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
When she was growing up, so she was involved with it. So what I'm saying to you is you have to understand that nothing is perfect. People do make mistakes.
That's right.
What I'm suggesting to you is the only focus for me right now is the 6-year-old who has one constant that's no longer in her life, taken away abruptly. She has to share her mother with a sibling, which is very often traumatic for a young child, even a young child who hasn't had the kind of history that your daughter has had. And she also shares that child with a pseudo-stepchild, because you're not married to him. So that's not a stepchild, but it's somebody that comes over periodically. Plus you work part-time, so you got a full plate. He doesn't sound like a terrible guy, but a self-acknowledged bad temper, right? Yeah. And he says he has a bad temper when he's helping the children out with their schoolwork and they don't seem to get what he's telling them, so he has a tendency to yell. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, I assume that your 9-month-old doesn't go to school.
Not yet.
So I assume that the child that you're referring to is Jasmine.
Mostly I was referring to my son.
Well, he's not with you Monday through Friday to help with his schoolwork.
Actually, Your
tried to
Honor,
help
sometimes he is.
Sometimes is not all the time. Jasmine lives there full time.
I was referring to my son. Jasmine, I tried.
It certainly doesn't say that here. So she's got a very full plate, your daughter. And I'm not going to get involved with whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea for you not to let her continue to see her grandmother. I don't have enough information. Off the top of my head, I would say it's a tragic mistake for her. This is the one constant that she's had in her life, because you've had several different men. You've had her father, you've had Joe, you've had Tom, you've had Jason, you've had whoever in your life. And one constant she has is your maternal family. And if you cut them off, I think that that's a big mistake. But I see no malice in your mother's phone call. Go ahead.
May I say something? I haven't cut her off from my complete family. My grandmother had 14 children, and I'm very close with all of them.
Okay.
And if I could say one more thing else, my grandmother done this exact same thing to my mother and my Aunt Becky. And there was no reason then, and there's no reason now, is the way I look at it.
Well, as I said to you, I don't get the sense that there was a malicious intent on the part of your mother, and it's very possible that your daughter did say to her, I can't tell you, because then Mommy said, I can't see you anymore. That makes sense to me. That was in your mom's answer. I can't tell you what's going on because Mom says I can't see you anymore. And I can hear that conversation. You know, if you're going to talk to Grandma about what goes on in the house, I'm not going to let you see her anymore.
I would never say that.
It's sort of interesting for her to at least attribute that to the child, whether you said it or whether you didn't. It's not a good idea for you to inquire about what's going on in the house. That puts your granddaughter, if you do, in a very difficult situation. In any event, I assume that you will work out whether or not you see your granddaughter between the two of you. As I said, I think it's probably not in your daughter's best interest not to see her grandmother, but I see nothing malicious about the phone call to Child Protective Services.
She has been malicious as far as to the people in my community. I live in a small town. I grew up in that town, and that whole town thinks nothing but bad about me and Jason now. She's told people that Jason's molested Jasmine.
I have never, ever accused him of molestation.
That should be on,
I have
on
never.
that report.
They asked me if I thought that might be the case, and I said, I don't really know. That's something I can't say because that's nothing that was
she's a
brought
6-year-old
up.
child who has a yeast infection, according to the reports. And for somebody who may not be schooled, they may not know how you develop a yeast infection, but certainly sexually transmitted disease is one possibility.
Your Honor, my doctor told me that yeast infections are caused in little girls by sitting in a soapy bathtub.
That's possible.
It is very possible.
No, it's possible, but I will tell you now that for a 6-year-old to have a yeast infection who does not have a history of taking antibiotics, which sometimes causes that for a long period of time, might be problematic for a grandmother. She says she's never made those statements. I have nobody here to counter that, but I see nothing in the history of this case that suggests to me that she made any calls maliciously. So your case is dismissed.
Yeah, this is case number 343 on the calendar in the matter of Krill versus Krill. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Jennifer, this is your stepmom.
Yes, ma'am.
And you are no longer married to her father, is that right? You are
Yes,
now
ma'am.
divorced. How long were you married to Jennifer's father?
18 years.
Jennifer, you came back to live with your stepmom. You have a child?
Yes, ma'am.
How old is your child?
She's 3.
So you came back to live with your mom when you were 16?
Yes.
With the baby?
Yes.
Where had you been living?
In El Paso, Texas with my real mom.
And that didn't work out, so you came back to
Live with
your
her, correct.
stepmom. Your complaint is that your stepmother has a car that belongs to you.
Correct.
And she says she does not, it is her car. I gather there was a time when you were 16 or 17 that your stepmother gave you her car to drive, and you totaled it.
Right.
And then what did you do?
What do you mean?
Well, you got some money, according to your complaint. You asked your biological mother for some money.
Oh, yes.
And she sent you some money, and you put it in the bank.
Right.
And you and your stepmother went out shopping for a
Right.
car, according to you, purchased this car, which your
Right.
stepmother put in her name.
Right.
That's the car we're looking to retrieve.
Right.
So, when you went to buy the car, you were 17?
Right.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what kind of discussion did you have with your stepmother about the car?
We really didn't have a discussion. I mean, she told me that we were going to buy me a car because she didn't have any money to afford to replace the other one. And then she did the transaction. I handed her the $800, in front of the man that we bought it from, and then I walked away. She never consulted me about putting her name on the title. She just, I guess, put her name on it. So, I mean, I have the bill of sales. I have a bank statement from that day.
Okay, no, there's no question. The money came from your stepdaughter.
Yeah, but she's not telling the story right.
Okay, so I'm listening to you.
She never gave me the $800. She went and took care of that. Jennifer also took care of all the title work and registration, and she's the one that put my name on that title.
No, I did not.
I never went to the license bureau to do that. She took care of all of that.
Why would she put your name on the title? Maybe because she was a minor?
No, I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think she totaled my car in early May. The Neon was bought probably 3 weeks after that.
Ms. Krill, she has received a gift from her biological mother for the purpose of purchasing a car.
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you think this car belongs to you?
Because we discussed it. It was supposed to be, she's the one that took care of the paperwork. If she really believed that it was her car, why did she put my name on the title?
Now just a second, that's not my question. Why do you believe it's your car? Don't tell me what's going through Jennifer's mind.
I never said it belonged to me. I said it belonged to us.
Well,
and
then
it
how
was
do you
discussed
expect
that she was replacing the Cougar that she totaled.
Her mother didn't send her money to replace your car.
No, ma'am, she did not.
Right. Her mother sent her money to buy a car for herself so she would have a car. She's 17 years old. Sometimes teenagers have problems. But you have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When your child is 15, 16, 17 years old and they have an accident with the car, it's just part of parenting. They don't replace it.
I didn't ask her to replace the car, though. The car was put in both of our names for it to be our car so we could share it.
You can't share an $800 car. And she's not living with you anymore. So what do you want to do?
We live a mile from each other.
You can't share the car. It's impossible. Who has the title?
I do.
Can I see
I
it,
have the
please?
receipt to the title.
You don't have the title. You have a receipt. I want to see the title.
Okay.
Okay. Have her sign. Okay. Right over there, Ms. Krill. That's going to take care of the car. Sign it. Okay. Bird, would you give it over to the plaintiff, please? All right, that takes care of that. Now, I'm going to take care of all this property stuff. What kind of property do you claim that you have at your stepmother's house, and why did you leave it there?
Well, I have a couch that my aunt gave me. I have a bed that my grandmother gave me, a radio flyer, a radio tricycle. I have all my shoes.
That's for the baby?
Right. Those are her toys, and amongst several other toys that she has there. And
Well,
the reason why it
why didn't you
stayed,
take those things when you left?
because I was sent to Texas. I mean, I couldn't pack everything.
What do you
on
mean
the
you were
plane.
sent to Texas? When were you sent to Texas?
I was sent there July 11th because they said that I couldn't live in their house anymore. So.
You mean your stepmom said you couldn't live there anymore?
Right. Well,
Why? What were you doing?
She told me that I had to go to Texas. I had to face my past and stand up to my real mother. I mean, I didn't understand why she was sending me. I still don't understand why she sent me.
She's going to tell me why she sent you. There had to be something that you're not understanding, but that I have a feeling I'm going to understand. Go ahead.
She was sent back to Texas at that time because I was on medical leave and because she was getting into some trouble that I couldn't handle. I told her to go back to Texas to deal with things that were going on, to step up because she needs to be a mother.
To her child?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a mother to my child. I think I am a very good mother to my child. I've never hurt her. I mean, I don't understand why she's saying that.
Well, let me ask you this question. You've never hurt her?
No.
Do you think that you surround her with the appropriate people all the time?
Yes, I do.
Just think about my question very carefully. Where's her father?
He is in Texas. He's no longer in my child's life, nor has he never been.
Does he pay support for her?
No, he doesn't.
Why not?
He just doesn't. He's in prison.
Well, that's a reason. That's a reason for him not to pay support is because he's in jail. What is he in jail for?
Statutory rape.
Of?
Me.
Of you. Is that one of the reasons you didn't get along with your biological mother?
Yes, it was.
Did they pursue that against him?
Yes, ma'am, they did.
Okay. Your stepmother says that you were getting into some difficulty with your daughter, that she found her in a circumstance that she wasn't happy with. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any truth to that?
No, I don't understand. I don't know what circumstance you'll be talking about because...
Well, maybe she'll tell me. Go ahead.
She was dating boys that had no business being around the grandbaby. I actually had to extract her from the home of one twice within a month's period.
What was wrong with them?
He beat on the baby, for one.
How do you know that?
He left marks on her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Yes, he was one of my boyfriends
She admitted that he hit her.
because she had an accident in her pants. I didn't agree with it. I didn't say, oh, well, that's okay.
So when I asked you whether your daughter was around inappropriate people, the answer was yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 18-year-old Jennifer Krill says her stepmother, Kim Krill, won't return her vehicle. Kim says Jennifer should think of it as compensation for wrecking her car.
Did you ask Jennifer about the marks?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
She admitted that he hit her.
Is that right?
What happened was, from another instance, that when I was in Texas, yes, he was one of my boyfriends. I came to live with him. I mean, he was nice until, like, he told me to get out of his house. And then the reason why he hit her was because she had an accident in her pants. I didn't agree with it. I didn't say, oh, well, that's okay. I got my stuff, I packed my bags, and then I called my real mother in Texas, and that's when she came and got me.
Jennifer, so when I asked you whether your daughter was around inappropriate people, the answer was yes.
Oh, I didn't think that she was stating that. I thought, excuse me, she was stating of my stay right now. And how
I'm talking
staying
about
right now.
then. I want to know why you were sent back to Texas.
I was
The
on-
stepmother is on...
In December,
No, in July.
she's been sent back twice.
Okay.
That's why I
Well,
was
anyway,
talking
that's when you were sent back the last time. It was in July.
Right.
And you didn't take all of your stuff because you thought you were coming back.
Right.
Do you have her couch?
Yeah.
You have her bed?
Yeah. I would like to say, though, that when she arrived back in Hobart, she called and said she was coming to get her stuff, and she did come and get a lot of stuff. It was her choice that she did not come back and get it. I never denied her that stuff.
Okay.
She didn't.
Do you
but-
want... It's going to be easy.
Okay.
What stuff do you want now?
Mainly, I want my car, and I do want my couch and my bed, but I don't have.
Well, listen, Jennifer, you can't have it both ways. If you want your couch and your bed and the baby's toys, make arrangements to pick that up in 5 days. Fine. It'll be put out. It'll be waiting for you. You'll get a storage space. Fine. But she's not going to act as a storage facility for you until you decide what you want to do. The car you now have. Do you understand?
Okay.
Car is yours.
Okay.
You have it. You want to forget about the rest of the stuff?
No.
Well, do you want it?
Yes, I do.
She's asking to take stuff that was the grandbaby's that I actually bought her, and the grandbaby still comes to my house.
Does?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're talking about the tricycle?
That was bought for her birthday and for Christmas.
Okay. I'm glad that she still comes to the house.
I adore my grandbaby.
How often does she come to the house?
I haven't really got to see her a lot lately, maybe once a week.
Where are you living now?
I live with my friends in Hobart, Indiana.
What friends?
Eric, Willie, and Jay.
You live in a house with 3 men?
Yes, I do.
What do they do for a living?
They put up billboards.
What do you do?
I stay home. I don't work right now.
What are you going to do with the couch and the bed?
I'm going to get a storage room until I can rent my own apartment to put it in.
You still are getting along reasonably well with your stepmother?
I would say so.
I like that. That's very smart. Your daughter needs that.
I know that. That's
A
why I
lot.
allow her to see her.
A lot. So I have a sense, and I'm going to ask her, she's not quite ready for the couch and the bed right now. Any chance of you holding on to it?
I told her before that she was more than welcome to keep her stuff there until she could find a room.
Fine. Then we have no problem with that. And we've resolved the car. Continue to be smart, Jennifer. Continue to let her be a part of that baby's life, because I have a sense that that is going to be one of the stable things in your daughter's life, at least for a while.
I understand that.
Okay, very good. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's not stepping up to her responsibilities and doing what she's supposed to do.
I would like to make amends with her.
Just to be a good mom to her daughter, that's all I want her to do.
If she would like to see me in her life as well as my granddaughter, I mean, I'm more than willing to do so.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Riley versus Lee. Step forward, please.
Retired bus driver Lynette Riley is suing her ex-daughter-in-law, medical language specialist Kelly Lee, for defaulting on a car loan. Kelly says she can't make payments because Lynette's son doesn't pay child support.
Mrs. Riley, the defendant is your former daughter-in-law.
Yes, she is.
And you have grandchildren?
Yes, I do.
How many of those grandchildren are the children of the defendant?
2.
Do you see them?
Yes, I see about 3 times a year now.
Okay, good. According to what I read, in 2000, in the year 2000, you co-signed a loan for a car at a time when your former daughter-in-law and your son were still living together. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
And the car was used by your daughter-in-law. I assume it was in your name?
It was.
And I assume also that your husband used the car on occasion. Is
Yes,
that right?
he did.
But shortly after the car was purchased, they separated, and you took the car.
Yes.
Now, did your judgment of divorce provide that the car was your car and your responsibility?
It wasn't detailed in our divorce, but property in our names remained in our names.
Is that what the judgment of divorce said?
Yes.
Problem is that you stopped making the payments at some point. When did
Yes,
you
I did.
stop making the car payments?
The car payments began to be too much for me. I wasn't receiving child support
That's your defense.
consistently.
That's your defense. My question was, when did you stop making car payments?
Off and on over the last 6 months, I continually tried to catch up, and I couldn't.
Do you have the date when she stopped making the car payments?
Actually, I don't know because the bank never let me know when she actually makes stopping. They had notified me that they were going to repossess the car in January of this year. Well, then they gave her an extension, and I found out later in April that they had repossessed it in March, which I hadn't even been notified that it had been repossessed. And she didn't let me notify it.
Why didn't you notify your mother-in-law that the car had been repossessed?
I'm sorry, I did notify her. I told her that I would have to send the car back. I talked to my ex-husband. He told me to call my mother-in-law, which I did. She said I asked her if she wanted to take the car. I had no choice. I needed to provide a home for my children. The car was too much.
When did you call her?
I believe it was January. And then I called the finance company and asked them to come and get the car when she told me that she had no use for it.
Just a second. Ms. Riley, I just want to know, did your daughter-in-law call you in January of this year and tell you that she was having difficulty? Did you want to take the car back?
She did not call me in January. When I was in
When did
there,
she call you?
When she didn't call me. When we were there in December to pick up the children for Christmas, I had talked to her. And she said at that time that she thinks she was going to have to let the car go back because she was not able to make the payments.
So it was in December that she spoke to you?
Yes.
That she couldn't make the payments, she was going to have to let the car go back.
And she told me at that time, Judge, to do what I had to do. And I said, okay. Well, then I had called the bank, and they said, no, they hadn't repossessed it, that they had given her another extension. Well, then I had not talked to her since then. But I didn't even know when they picked the car up until it was like April or 1st of May when the bank come after me for the money.
So, how much did you pay the bank?
Okay, it was left with a loan of $9,200. And the bank came after me and told me they were going to sue me every 7 years until I paid for it. Well, they told me if I haven't paid in 48 hours, that they would knock 25% off on it. And so I didn't know what to do, but I went to my mother to ask her for a loan so I wouldn't have to pay back so much. So she gave me the loan for $7,300, which I sent them a check within 48 hours. And then they sent me...
You have a copy of that check?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please?
I also have a copy of the post office when I sent it.
I don't need that. I just need a copy of your check. Okay, finance company.
And then the bank sent me a statement after that advising me that the request has been sent to the appropriate credit bureaus and updating your file of reflection. Now,
okay. So why aren't you responsible? Why? Now, your defense.
I did not want Mrs. Riley to co-sign the car. That wasn't a choice for me. My ex-husband asked her to co-sign the car for us. And I just basically, when it came down to it, I asked her to take the car back. She told me that she had no use for the car. I did tell her
Even
to
if
do what she needed to do.
Listen to me, she took the car back, she still would have been out the money. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so she didn't want to be out the money. Why isn't it you're trying to explain to me, Miss Lee, why it isn't your responsibility? You've had this car since the year 2000. You took it in the judgment of divorce. You accepted responsibility for it in the judgment of divorce. You drove it. You used it for 3 years. Explain to me why this loss should be hers instead of yours.
I tried to work it out with her. I told her that I was calling the finance company.
Yes.
To come and get the car. It wasn't with us. I returned the car.
Yes.
And she wanted nothing to do with me.
Yes.
She wanted nothing to do with it. I never heard another word from her after that.
That doesn't answer my question. Are you thick? I mean, are you thick?
No.
Then explain to me why it's not your responsibility. It's certainly not her responsibility. She says, you say to her, take the car back. I can't deal with it anymore. She says to you, I can't deal with it. I don't have the money to pay every month on this car. I have a car, or I don't need a car. This was your car. So I'm not dealing with the problem. This is your problem. This is your car. All I did was do a favor and co-sign so that you could get the car. But it's your car. You're saying to her, this is the problem. Deal with it. But how old are you?
31.
You're not 12. So I'm waiting for you to explain to me why it's not your responsibility.
The car was shared by myself and my husband. I didn't want her name on the car.
Then you should have given your husband the car during the divorce proceedings.
I couldn't.
Listen to me very carefully. Then if you didn't want because I'm not going to get an answer from you. If you didn't want the responsibility of the car because you couldn't deal with it, then you give the car to your husband in the judgment of divorce, and then it becomes his responsibility. But you can't have two front ends of the dog. Do you understand? You can't have the car and no responsibility, which is what you seem to be suggesting to me. Put your hand down. Do you appear to be losing? No. Sorry. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
All right. Anything else you want to say to me?
No, ma'am.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount only that I can award you here, which is $5,000. Thank you.
911 operator Sharon Kennedy is suing her ex-boyfriend, Michael Estepellin, for the cost of a cruise and for making unauthorized charges on her credit card.
It's number 148 on the calendar in the matter of Kennedy versus Estepellin. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
Ms. Kennedy, according to your complaint, you and the defendant were dating.
Yes.
And you claim that he owes you some money for a cruise that you took together and also for credit card charges that he made on your credit card.
Yes.
Mr. Estepellin says that you were just friends, that the cruise was your treat, and that it was very nice of you as a friend to allow him to charge things on your credit card, but there was never an agreement for him to pay you back. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you?
40 years old.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a race car official and a mechanic.
Are you married?
No longer.
You have children?
One.
Who does that child live with?
Her mother.
And who do you live with?
My father.
How long have you lived with your father?
6 months.
Do you pay him rent?
Yes.
How much rent do you pay him?
Not enough. About $100.
When did you meet Miss Kennedy?
When we were about 15 years old.
And did there come a time when you and Miss Kennedy started to have a relationship that was more than just friendly?
When we were 16.
More recently, sir, so that we can come into this millennium. You went on a cruise together.
Yes, we did.
And when was that cruise?
Early this year, January or February, I believe.
Had you been going out with her socially prior to that?
She had come to California from Arizona occasionally, and when she did, we would go out to dinner.
Just dinner?
Dinner and a movie.
Nothing more intimate than that?
No, ma'am.
When you went on the cruise, did you have one stateroom or two?
We had one.
Did you have one bed or two?
We had one.
And did you sleep on the floor or in the bed?
On the bed.
And what about Miss Kennedy?
On the bed.
How long was the cruise?
4 days.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding you going on the cruise.
We had been talking one time. She came to California out to dinner. She was talking about vacations, that she had been wanting to take a vacation since she had been recently divorced. The next thing I had found out about the cruise was when she emailed me that she had booked a cruise, and she picked the dates around my racing schedule when I had an off weekend. So she had already planned it, booked it, and sent me the information.
No. In December, when I picked Michael up from being in jail for 30 days, we had discussed...
What was he in jail for?
Because he failed to finish his anger management classes from a domestic violence issue on his wife.
That should have been your first clue.
I know. I know.
Go ahead.
So when he got out of jail, we went to the motel, and we discussed going on vacation. And I said, okay, I'll do some research on it. And when I met him again 2 weeks later when I went to California, I brought him all the information, and he agreed to pay half of the cruise. We booked the cruise for January 17th.
When was he supposed to pay for it?
After racing season started, which was the end of January.
And he never paid for it?
Correct.
When did you make him a card holder on your credit card?
After March, when we both told each other that we loved each other.
March?
Yes.
Some 2 months after he failed to pay you for the cruise?
Correct. But I had not asked him for the cruise money yet.
You just told me he was supposed to pay you for it when racing season started, which was a month later, and he didn't pay you.
Correct.
And if he didn't pay you, you should have had a clue that this wasn't somebody that you wanted to extend any further credit to.
Yes, ma'am.
So now I'm not interested in the cruise anymore.
Okay.
Now I'm interested in the credit card.
Okay. After Michael and I told each other that we loved each other on March 8th, he had been kicked out of his grandmother's house in February.
Why was he kicked out in February?
That I don't know the specifics. All I know is that she was very upset with him. It was some issue in the kitchen, that she had just cleaned the kitchen and he was not wanting to clean it up and got all over her, and it was not a pretty sight. So she told him he had to
finished that anger management course.
Correct. So then in March he started living at a motel, and he told me that for racing he would start traveling. So we agreed to put him as an authorized user on my American Express card. He would only use it for necessary items such as gas and lodging. And within a 1-month period, he had gone to Shoe City numerous times, Motherhood Maternity, and I sure as heck wasn't pregnant, Victoria's Secret. So he was obviously romancing another woman.
So what happened when you got the first bill?
When I found out, I went online and checked the amount that was being charged so far. And I called Michael on April 9th, and I asked him what happened. He told me that someone had broken into his motel room and stolen the numbers because he still had the card. So like a fool, I believed him. And I had American Express cancel out that first card, send him a second card. Same thing happened. Room was miraculously broken again, and more charges started happening. So by the time the third card got to him, American Express had suspended the account, and I wasn't even allowed to use it because the charges were up to $11,000. Michael told me, just dispute all the charges. And I told him, I can't dispute the charges if they're legitimate charges.
Well, she had told me that she was going to give me a card to help me on the road, and that's what I had used it for. And yes, I had charged it, and yes, I did go to Victoria's Secrets, because by that time I had met somebody else who I did like, and was planning
we were still having sex.
planning to have a future with. I had told her that the whole time that we were, friends, and that we were always just friends.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's get back to the credit card, sir. So what you're telling me is that when she questioned you about these charges, you told her that somebody had used the card in an unauthorized fashion initially.
No, ma'am. What I had said is that she
Look
told
at me.
Yes, she told me.
No, here.
I am here. She told me that there's numerous charges on him, and she says, well, how could there be that many charges? I said, I have no idea. Maybe the only way is if somebody got the numbers from my card. That'd be the only other way that could happen.
You're a dishonest man.
I don't believe so, ma'am.
You are a thoroughly and totally dishonest man. Because if you had said to Miss Kennedy the first time around, you got me. I charged things because I originally said I was just going to charge things on the road, which is what you told me.
Eventually.
I'm speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
You said I'm going to charge things on the road, motel, meals, that sort of thing. And then you chose, because you met somebody else, to charge things on the credit card that she questioned. And you knew that if you said to her, I met somebody else, and yes, I did charge some things for that other person, she would have canceled the card. You chose not to do that. And after you got the second card, you did the same thing. You charged things for your new girlfriend. So when I say to you that you are a dishonest person, I know from whence I speak. You are a dishonest and dishonorable person.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's a hustler.
And later today.
Sir, I wouldn't use her mural.
I did not use her mural.
Just a second. You did.
No, ma'am.
But, Ms. Diaz, don't bother me. I think you ought to find a different line of work, by the way.
Warren Kennedy says her ex-boyfriend, Michael Estepellin, made unauthorized charges on her credit card. Sharon claims Michael lied about the card getting stolen.
What were the costs that he put on your credit card?
The charges that I did not dispute in a 30-day period was $3,675.84.
Can I see those, please?
The highlight ones on the copy are the ones that we did not dispute. And I also have a copy.
You did not dispute them because he made them.
Correct. I have a copy of the cell phone bill that we also went on the family plan with.
Shh, I don't care about the cell phone. He's a hustler.
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $3,600. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She seems to think I'm a dishonest hustler. That's fine. That's her opinion.
Michael was in jail again in May, and I called his cell phone, and his girlfriend answered.
She finally got it through her head that we were going to be nothing but just friends.
I was totally shocked. I could not believe how much of a charmer he was and how good a liar he really was.
Now she's just she's a scorned woman who didn't get away.
The money is just secondary to what Michael and I had.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Diaz versus Altunia. Step forward, please.
Artist Mariana Diaz is suing former client, restaurant manager Robert Altunian, for the cost of a painted mural. Mariana says Robert never paid for her work.
Ms. Diaz, you claim that the defendant owes you for a mural that you painted for his restaurant. And Mr. Altunia says that he didn't like the result, so he's not paying for it.
Right.
When did you hire Ms. Diaz?
Exact date, I don't really remember.
Month.
Because maybe November or October.
When did he hire you?
On November 5th.
And what was your agreement with her, Mr. Altunia?
Actually, I was trying to find a mural person.
Listen to me.
Was my
I had a
agreement with her? $3,000.
Okay, you were going to pay her $3,000
Yes,
for the
ma'am.
mural. And how long did she work on the mural?
Almost 6 weeks.
And you didn't like the result?
Yes.
Do you have a photograph of the mural that you completed?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please. How did you find her, by the way, Mr. Altunia?
I put the words around that I need a mural, and she knew one of my secretaries. It was a friend of hers or something, and when I asked her, she said, I'll do it.
And you agreed on a $3,000 price?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see what you've put in there in place of this, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I actually run it. I have a couple of samples that...
I don't want to see a sample.
No.
I want to see what you did over her work.
Here. And the top one, too. And the back. That's it.
This is what is over the mural that she painted.
Yes.
You sure?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Oh, I see what you did. You used part of her mural in the center, which is what you showed me. You used this part, and you had someone else paint pictures of women, dancers, around it.
Yes, ma'am, it's true.
Okay, good. Well, it's certainly, I will tell you, Miss Diaz, have you seen it? I'm going to show it to you. It certainly is lovely what he did. He added to your piece. Just show that to Miss Diaz. Okay.
I know the artist that did this. He's awesome guy.
Yes,
awesome.
he's wonderful. He used your center.
Right.
And then he painted beautiful women dancers around the back, and he is awesome.
It is awesome.
He is awesome. Let me have it back.
I met him while I was working on this because
there's no question about it.
Yeah.
That as far as artists go, Miss Diaz,
he's amazing.
He's terrific. But Mr. Altunia, you see, this is your problem, sir.
Okay.
How long have you been in the restaurant business?
32 years.
Let's say Officer Byrd and I decide to take our families to your restaurant.
Sure.
We come together. How many are in your family?
6.
All together. You
All
know,
together,
children.
6. Yeah.
My basic family is 22. Children, their spouses, and grandchildren.
Sure.
So between the two of us now, we're 28 people. And we come to your restaurant. What kind of food do you serve, sir?
I have 8 kind of different restaurants that I represent.
This one?
I do not. This one is French restaurant. It's a cabaret, madame.
Good. So we come to your cabaret, and we eat, and we drink, and at the end of the meal, I say to him, you know what? I didn't like the food. I had better French food across the street.
All right.
So, Mr. Altunia, we're not paying the bill because we didn't like your food. We ate it. We used it. But it was better food across the street. Would your first phone call be to the police? and say these people are trying to scam me out of a $5,000 bill.
No,
they came, they ate my food, they drink my wine, and when I present them with a bill, they say, you know, we had better French food. What?
Before I forget, can I give you the answer?
Sure.
I would invite you again for free next meal.
Well, the next time, sir, that she paints a mural for you, maybe she'll do it for free. This time, you got to pay for it.
My personal knowledge is...
That's
good. Your Honor. That's good.
Sir, I wouldn't use her mural. Listen to me.
I did not use her mural.
Just a second. You did.
No, ma'am.
You used her mural because
No,
I'm
ma'am.
looking at the...
All right.
I'm looking at the work that
All
your
right.
artist did, and your artist used right in the center a little piece of her work. Whether you chose to use her work or not, that's not what's relevant, sir. If you made Ms. Diaz, don't bother me. I think you ought to find a different line of work, by the way. But what I'm telling you is, she spent 6 weeks there. The fact that she is a person of marginal talent is not her fault. She really wanted to do a good job. This is the best job she could do. She didn't necessarily try to hurt you, and all during the work process, because I read the papers, you kept giving her money for supplies. Instead of looking at it and saying, listen, my 6-year-old grandchild could do this job.
I did the same thing, Your Honor.
Oh, just a second.
Okay,
Instead of doing that, you continued to give us supplies because she says, I could do better, I could do better. And I would have said, listen, let's stop right here. I see after 2 weeks this is not working out. I'm going to give you $1,000. I'm going to hire somebody else. But you, Mr. Altunia, said to her, fine. Here's the money. Go continue to work. Not the right thing to do, sir. You made a mistake.
Can I answer again, Your Honor?
Sure.
All right. When somebody starts, you know, she's a nice girl. When somebody starts, and a friend of my secretary too, she was very nice, and she's very kind. Believe me, she did her best. I seen her go from books to bookstores. I seen her bringing so many pictures. I seen her sleep there sometime. I was wrong by hiring for such cheap price and expecting the most.
Mr. Altunia.
Yeah.
That's where you're mistaken.
That's right. I think
that's
she
your
was
mistake.
expensive.
You've been in business 33 years. You
that's
get
right.
what you
That's
pay
very
for.
true, Your Honor.
And the artist who ultimately did this, clearly, if they
Your Honor,
charge
please do me a favor. I gotta tell you this. I want to show it to you
I want to
what
also
she did.
express some things.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. You go.
First of all, I mean, I'm not going to discuss art, and here is just my time that I put into that thing.
Does it sound as if you're not going to win this case?
No, and also, I mean, just defending a little bit my art. This thing we agreed before I started that I was going to do over the stage, because that was the stage.
Your Honor, excuse me.
And I did it in God leave. So
Miss
I mean, I
Diaz,
don't-
Miss Diaz, listen
right.
to me, sweetheart.
Right.
He's got to pay you the $3,000. Put it down. He's got to pay you the $3,000 because that was your
Your Honor,
agreement.
one more second, please.
Yes.
I told her to put a Moulin Rouge.
Yeah,
Moulin Rouge is a very
it's a
famous
windmill.
restaurant. Moulin Rouge is a beautiful place in Paris. I made better over here. I had a lot of money available to give anything she wanted. I have $1 million location.
Listen to me.
I have now picture. I told her to make one Moulin, the windmill. That's how she finished it. And I had to work in the top of Moulin Rouge.
No.
Please look at it.
I did the Moulin
Look what
since
she
the
did.
beginning. It was
Yeah, I wanted the Moulin.
amazing. It's amazing. And
You're going to win
okay.
anyway. Please don't. You won already. Why you are fighting for?
Mr. Altunia, what I'm telling you is you're a businessman. You've been a businessman for 33 years, according to you, in the restaurant business. You made an agreement with her. Your agreement was she's going to paint, do the best job she could for $3,000.
Right.
The fact that you thought you were getting something for nothing,
That's right.
that's your problem. See,
I
then
guess
you had
it
to
was.
hire somebody to come in and finish the job. And I want to tell you something. The person that you hired is a person that has a tremendous amount of talent. But that's your problem.
It's
She
true.
worked for 6 weeks. You got to pay her. Judge for the plaintiff.
Your
The
Honor.
amount of
Hold on, wait,
$3,000.
wait,
Thank
don't
you.
give nothing.
Goodbye.
Parties are
Bye.
excused. You
Luck.
may step out.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is case number 108 on the calendar in the matter of Hayes versus Cheney. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
How old are you, Miss Hayes?
I'm 24.
How many children do you have?
Just one.
What do you do for a living?
I bartend.
Do you have any other source of income other than from your bartending?
No.
ever receive any supplements from the state?
Right now I get medical for my child, and I do receive food assistance too.
Your complaint is that a little over a year ago, you made an arrangement with Mr. Cheney, who is the father of your daughter, that in lieu of child support, he would furnish you with a car.
Right.
The car would remain in his name until it was paid off, and he would pay $200 a month towards the car instead of giving you money for child support.
Correct.
And that was just fine for a year, and then car was taken from the front of your house. You thought it was Mr. Cheney who took that car. You reported it stolen to the police. The car was subsequently found. Mr. Cheney decided, I don't want this aggravation. I'd rather give her the child support. So he turned the car in. According to him, he's now sending you $200 a month in child support. So he doesn't want to be bothered with the car business anymore. And you want the value of the car, and you say that you put in a substantial amount of money into the car.
Correct.
Things like rims.
Actually, the rims and tires on the car, were not on it when it was stolen, so that wouldn't be part of it. But the stereo system and other
window
things
tints
on the car. Yeah.
Why did you need window tints on the car?
Because it was a nice new car, and I had it, and with my income tax return, I put some money into my car.
You're a single mother raising a child on tips and wages from being a bartender. And are you telling me that you took that money, and instead of putting it in a college fund for your daughter, you tinted the windows on your car and
I
you
sure
upgraded
did.
the stereo? You sure did. Your priorities are a little screwed up.
At that time, I wasn't receiving any assistance, and I was doing just fine.
I don't care whether you were receiving any assistance or not. How much money do you have put away for your daughter for college?
None.
And when you receive Medicaid and when you receive food stamps, you're receiving welfare. And before I would put money into tinting my windows in my car, I would put money towards my child's future. That's what a grown-up does. I just want to mention that, madam, because I was actually appalled at that piece of your complaint when you say you want that money back from him because he repossessed the car and sold it after you had put in this window tints and stereo system and fancy rims on the car. And so he owes you $4,000. Now, Mr. Cheney.
Yes.
Why did you take the car back?
I didn't take the car back. It was reported stolen. I found it 2 blocks from her house, sitting in an apartment complex, which I did some checking around and I got proof that the car was there and that she's been in and out of those apartment complexes many times while it was there. It was given back to me by a police officer.
Because the car was in your name?
The car was in my name. I took it back to the car lot because I didn't want no problems. She's trying to put me in jail all the time. I didn't want no problems with it.
Fine. You used the car for a year?
I did. If I wanted to put him in jail, Your Honor, he would be in prison right now.
You used the car for a year?
I did.
How much do you think that it would cost if you leased a car for a year?
I have no idea.
How much is he paying you now in child support?
He has paid me $200 for the last 2 months. But I'm currently
Who is this
filing.
person?
This is my girlfriend.
Tell her to keep her mouth shut. Because you two have a child together, and she's not supposed to exacerbate any bad feeling that may exist between the two of you.
She's been the communicator between the both
Which
of us.
is making it worse.
In court, she has nothing to say, and she should have as little to say as possible, because that's not going to be a good thing. You two have to learn how to get along together, because you made a child together.
There is a 2-year restraining order. I had no permission whatsoever to talk to this female for 2 years. She is the communicator by court.
He was talking to me up until I don't know what happened, and she decided that she didn't want that anymore, and now she's been the communicator, and she makes things up between the two of us and causes more
Very
problems.
bad. That's very unfortunate. Who got a restraining order against whom?
The state actually pressed it for a no-contact order because of a domestic violence that we had.
Who supervises visitation?
No one supervises visitation. She was picking up for a while our daughter and bringing him to him for the weekend, and then we would meet and I'd pick her up.
Oh,
he stopped seeing her about 8 months ago, though.
No, I didn't stop seeing her.
Or not 8 months ago.
She quit letting me see her. She said, you're not seeing your child again until we're done with court. This court right here today. First it was, you better start paying me payments, pay her payments. Nope, you can't have her. Now we're going to court. Oh, nope, not till court's over. So I'm paying. I haven't even seen my child in like 4 months.
Do you have an order of visitation?
I don't think so.
Well, go and get one. If you don't have an order of visitation, then you see your child whenever she says you can. If you have an order of visitation, sir, that's fixed by a court, you will see your child whenever the court tells you you can see your child. Do you understand the difference?
Yes, I do.
Well, then you got to get off your duff and go into court and file for an order of visitation.
Well, I was trying to do it out of court.
Well, that's stupid.
Your Honor, I've never told him he couldn't see his daughter.
Just a second. That's stupid.
That's stupid.
You pick yourself up and you go to the local domestic relations court or the family court, wherever you live, and you file a petition to see your child, whatever. And she just says, I told him he could see her whenever.
She don't
Listen
bring her,
to me.
then I can't see her.
Listen to me. That's not up to her. Go. If somebody told me I couldn't see my child, I wouldn't wait 4 months to go to court. She knew how to go to court to get an order of support, right?
Right.
You do have an order of support.
Yes, we do.
$200.
That's not court ordered.
It's not court ordered.
That's not. I'm in the process right now of getting back into the court ordered amount, which is $280 a month.
It's ordered that I pay $280 a month already. We had a verbal agreement outside of it to pay $200 a month. So
No, to pay
For the car.
to pay for the car.
Now I'm in the process of getting the $280 a month again.
Very good. So you'll get your $280 a month. Good. I don't know what you want.
What I want basically is I put all this money into this car.
That was stupid.
It was a bad decision.
Stupid.
Bad
Who told
decision.
you? Who told you? Listen to me. Who told you to tint the wheels, buy rims, buy a stereo, tint the whatever? Did I say tint the rims?
You said tint the wheels, but
tint the wheels. Whatever you do, madam, that's your prerogative. I can really understand why he doesn't want to have anything to do with you other than paying child support and picking up the child because clearly you don't like each other. You don't get that money back.
Have you seen the contract?
What? I don't care. Listen to me.
He agrees in the contract to pay me the money that he owes me when, if the contract was ever broken, that I had into the car. He agreed to that. So
she willingly gave up the car by reporting it stolen. Pretty much
I had to report it stolen. It was stolen from my
Pretty
house.
much set me up
If I wanted to
because
send him to prison, he tried to kill
I have
me. I have police
witnesses
reports. I could have
saying that she was.
Then I have a question for you, Miss Hayes, because it always strikes me that women can be so foolish. If he tried to kill you, and if you are afraid of him.
I'm not afraid of him.
Well, I would be afraid of somebody who tried to kill me, Miss Hayes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That's your daughter's money.
Okay, well, my daughter needs me to feed her and put her through.
Right.
Right, so I have to get to and from school or work, right?
Right.
Okay, so...
But in a car that doesn't have tinted windows.
And later today,
February, she decided that she was going to have some plastic surgery done. Had a cabaret party, spent over $2,000 to have this party, and I still didn't get my money.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diana Hayes says the father of her child, Jason Cheney, owes for illegally repossessing her car. Diana says Jason's actions are hurting their daughter.
Miss Hayes, I would be afraid of anybody who tried to kill me, especially someone with whom I had a relationship. I don't need you for anything.
Okay.
I certainly wouldn't put myself in a position where I had any kind of business relationship with them. Listen to me, any kind of business relationship with them. There has to be a reason for that. Now, one of the reasons for that might be, you see, if he's giving you $280 a month, you could purchase your own car. However, if he's giving you $280 a month, the other assistance that you might be getting from the state, including the Medicaid and the food stamps, would be taken away. So, right?
Yes,
Yes,
no problem
sure.
with that.
So listen to me. So this way, you got the Medicaid, you got the food stamps, and you got your car. So if you think about it...
That was reported. That was part of my income. His $200 a month toward my car was part of my income. Reported. It still wasn't enough. So
interesting. So then I don't understand why somebody who was so fearful of somebody's bad temper...
He wasn't even making the payments.
Listen to me. I don't understand why someone who was so fearful of somebody's bad temper would enter into any kind of business relationship.
I was
without
already
anything... What?
I was already into it before then. I was already into this. I was already into this agreement. This was already going on before.
Then say, here's your car back.
I was
don't
already
want
into
it.
this
Listen
car
to
this
me.
much money.
Here's your car back. I don't want your car. I want you to pay me $280 a month. You pay it through the court. You come and visit every other week or every week, just as the court is going to tell you to do. And that's what we do. You don't have a convoluted business arrangement. In any event, I don't see where he owes you $4,000, Miss Hayes.
To rent a car.
What?
I no longer have use of a car that I put $4,000 into. I no longer have use of this car. Do you pay $4,000 to rent a car? No, you paid $4,000 to buy a car, not rent a car. Am I wrong?
She got her use out of the
Listen
car.
to me,
I used the car for a little over a year. It was a good car. I would have drove it for 5 more years. I bought that car.
He doesn't want any part of you, and you don't want any part of him. Now take the money that he's giving you and go and put it towards a car, which is exactly what you did before.
She already did.
I am doing now.
Perfect. Did you buy a car?
I'm paying.
You're paying it off, which is exactly what you were doing before. You were paying it off with his money.
No, my money. My child support money.
No.
My money.
No, that's not your money. That's your daughter's money.
Okay, well, my daughter needs me to feed her and put her through.
Right.
Right, so I have to get to and from school or work, right?
Right.
Okay, so...
But in a car that doesn't have tinted windows. Goodbye, Miss Hayes.
Parties are excused when they step out.
He tried to kill me. I have police reports.
We got into domestic violence and we pushed each other around. That's about it.
He threatened me in the police report that if I said anything, then he would take my car away.
She reported stolen, tried to get me in trouble. It backfired in her face.
She keeps trying to get him in trouble. She can't handle the fact that they're no longer together.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Anderson versus Miller. Step forward.
Lori Anderson is suing her former co-worker, Tynesha Miller, for unpaid loans to pay her rent and bills. Lori says instead of paying her back, Tynesha had plastic surgery.
Miss Anderson, Miss Miller was a former friend of yours.
Yes.
And a co-worker.
Yes.
And it is your claim that you made 2 loans to her?
Yes.
And she hasn't paid you back. And Miss Miller says you were a real nice gal, real good-natured person, and you made gifts to her at a time when she needed money. That's her defense. Is that right?
Yes.
How long, Miss Miller, had you been friendly with Miss Anderson?
Probably 2 weeks after she started working.
And when was that?
December, January, I'm not exactly sure.
December of '03.
And what kind of business are you in?
I worked at a surgery center. I did the scheduling there.
And you?
I'm the surgery triage coordinator.
And when was the first loan that you made, Miss Anderson?
It was on April 14th, 2004.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding that loan, Miss Miller. Or that money that she gave you.
Okay. I was on the phone, and she overheard the conversation, and it was...
Well, what was the conversation about?
My conversation was about my gas had got turned off, and she overheard the conversation.
Why was your gas turned off? For non-payment of your bill?
Yes.
How much do you make a year?
I believe it's like $33,000.
So what were you spending your money on?
My children and paying my bills.
How many children do you have?
4.
Who else lives in your home?
Just the children and myself.
Where's their father?
I guess he's around.
Does he pay you support?
We only get a check maybe once a year when he files his taxes, and that's it.
Your Honor, if I can just interrupt, there are 4 different fathers.
Lori Anderson says former co-worker Tynesha Miller owes for a series of unpaid loans. Lori says Tynesha played on her sympathy.
Okay, so your gas was being shut off.
And she volunteered that.
Well, tell me what she said.
Well, she came to me and said, I'm your friend. You know, I love you and your children. I want to help. At which point in time I told her no. That was it was a lot of money, and the gas bill was high, $780. So she was like, let me do this. This is something that I want to do. I can't go home and go to sleep tonight knowing that your gas is cut off. It's cold and...
Okay. Very nice lady. Nice lady.
Right.
When was the next time you took money from Miss Anderson?
I believe it was 04.
September of 04.
Had she paid you any of the $780 back?
No, ma'am. And in the midst of this time, there was also 2 other occasions I had given Miss Miller money in the amount of $80 both times.
Did she say she would pay you back?
Yes, she did.
That
It was always in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks had come in the next 2 weeks.
What was the money for in September?
It was for her rent, Your Honor. She didn't pay her rent. She was going to be evicted from her apartment, and I love her children. We were friends. I trusted her. Even though she hadn't paid me the $780, I still couldn't go home in good conscience knowing that she was going to be evicted from her apartment. So I did write her a check in the amount of $893, which she did cash.
So far, is that correct?
Yes.
What arrangements did you have with her for repayment of all this money?
Just, I will pay you back in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks. After the check in September, we were discussing it. She said, Lori, I know I haven't paid you back the money. I'm going to get, a pretty good income tax check this year, and I'll pay you back with the income tax check. And I said, that's fine, Tanisha. So in February, she decided that she was going to have some plastic surgery done. Had a cabaret party, spent over $2,000 to have this party, and I still didn't get my money.
Just a second. What kind of cabaret party?
It's just a cabaret that you throw and you raise money.
For what?
People throw cabarets and they raise money just
What were
for
you
whatever
raising
reason.
What were you raising?
I was
money
going to
for?
have cosmetic surgery.
Why didn't you give her back the money?
She didn't want the money. I offered. That's what she's leaving out. I have offered, and she denied. I'm not going to take your money. I told
When did you
I would-
offer her the money?
Around income tax time.
You mean after this cabaret party?
No, the cabaret came after income tax time. So I offered the money before the cabaret.
Your Honor, she offered to write me a $500 check.
And what did you say?
And I'm like, okay. And the day progressed, no check. And the week progressed, no check. And then we stopped speaking. I was hanging around with some people she didn't like. We stopped speaking. I asked her for the money. She said, you'll have your money by Tuesday. Well, Tuesday's come and gone, about 45 Tuesdays from then, and I still haven't got my money. And then, Your Honor, to top it off, my birthday, we'd made plans to go out on my birthday, which was fine. She was going to pay for it, pay for my birthday cake. I'm like,
When was
oh,
this?
May 13th is my birthday.
Of this year?
Yes, ma'am.
So you were still speaking?
We
in
were
May.
still speaking. We were still co-workers. Yes, we did. We worked very closely together. I was still trying to be a friend, be the kind of person that I needed to be. And on my birthday, she's like, I'm going to order you a cake. We're going to go out. I'm going to pay for it. And I'm like, you don't have to pay for my cake. I can pay for my cake. So the day before my birthday, she came to me and she said, Laura, I don't have the money to pay for your birthday cake. Can I borrow the money from you? So me, being the person I am, I gave her the money for my birthday cake. The next day, she brought my birthday cake to work. Come to find out, one of our other coworkers had also given her the money for my birthday cake. To top it off, my husband and I paid for her dinner that night also.
I don't see anything funny about it.
She's making it sound worse than what it really is.
No,
this is the type of person.
Just a minute. It sounds pretty bad to me. You know, a lady who's earning $33,000 a year and getting some other support for her children from their father, whether it's from income tax return from one father and some other sporadic money from another father, raising 4 kids is expensive. But when you have a friend who is willing to help you over some rough spots, I think that that's terrific. And I would be much more sympathetic with you in your position as a single mother of 4 children if you didn't spend $2,000 to have a cabaret party, if you had a little more priority about what you were going to do with your money. Do you understand what I'm saying, Miss Miller?
Yes, I do.
Because you're supposed to act mature if you have 4 children. You're supposed to be mature if you have 4 children. You're not supposed to be foolish. You're not supposed to say, well, maybe I'll get, I don't know what kind of cosmetic surgery you wanted. You want bigger chest, little chest, bigger behind, smaller behind. Who knows? Who cares? First, you take care of your responsibility. And first, you take care of your debts. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,673. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 29 on calendar in the matter of Rodriguez versus Morales. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Thanks, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge.
Miss Rodriguez, the defendant is your cousin's husband.
Correct.
Where is your cousin? She here?
No, she's not.
According to what I read, your cousin's husband, Mr. Morales, vandalized your car by kicking it, causing dents in the car. He says he didn't do it. So I have a few questions, and I'm going to start out with him, because I was interested in your answer, Mr. Morales.
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you and your wife been married?
About 3 years, going on 4 years.
And according to your answer, sir, your wife and Diana were good friends. Aside from being cousins, they were friends.
Yes.
And your wife called you one day and said that she wanted to go out to speak to Diana, just to have a girls' night out.
She didn't say to go out. She said she wanted to go to dinner. Apparently something was going on.
Well, that's dinner. That's going out.
Okay, well, it turned out to be some other...
No, but that she told you she wanted to go out for dinner.
Yes.
You have children?
Yes, we do.
How many children do you have?
We have 4.
4 children in 3 years. How did that happen?
We have 2 together, and we each brought daughters into the marriage.
So your wife said she would like to have dinner with her cousin Diana.
Yes.
And you said okay.
Yes.
Well, what did you say?
I said dinner would be fine.
You didn't give your wife any specific instructions, though?
No instructions other than I made it clear that I didn't expect her to turn it into a drinking evening. They're very good friends, they're close. I didn't have any problem with that. She hadn't had time to herself, so...
Do you ever go out, Mr. Morales?
No.
Never go out and socialize?
No.
Tell me what happened next, sir.
Once I got home and she was getting ready to go out.
What time was that?
That was 6, maybe 6:30.
Okay.
And her cousin came, picked her up, and then they left. maybe about 15 minutes after they left, my wife called on the cell phone and told me that they weren't hungry, that they wanted to go and have a couple drinks. Didn't like the idea, but my wife hadn't had really
Well,
much.
what did you say to her?
I ended up telling her it was fine. I told her just I didn't want her out. I didn't expect her to be out late, and I didn't expect her to drink.
But they were going out to drink.
Not to drink and drive. I made
She
it,
wasn't driving. She picked her up.
If one was going to be drinking, I assumed they would both be drinking. So I made it clear to her that if they needed me to pick them up, that I would be available to pick them up.
Oh, so you said go and have a good time, but if you're both drinking, I'll be available to come pick you up. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And I made it clear that I didn't want it to be a late evening. I told her if you're going to go, talk, have a good time, I don't expect you to come home 11,
Late.
12 o'clock. Late.
You told her you didn't want him home after 11.
Yes.
How old is your wife?
She's 30.
Go ahead.
At 8:30, it was around 8:30, she called me, and at that time she was letting me know that she was having a good time, but they were wrapping it up and getting ready to head home. Okay, are you guys okay? She said yes, they were fine, everything was going well. So the location where she said they were going to be is maybe 15, 20 minutes. Maybe an hour later, I hadn't received any calls, so I tried calling the cell phone, and at that time the cell phone was off. Off or had no power. I probably tried the cell phone every 15 minutes or so after that, and 8:30 turned to 9:30, turned to 10:30, turned to about 11:30 is when I started getting concerned. I started to get the kids up and wanted to go and see if I can find her, so drove up to the area where they said they were going to be. Different path on the way home, thinking that I might see them stranded.
Didn't see them.
Didn't see them.
Beer bar. They served appetizers. We did have appetizers and drinks.
Okay, what time did you get home?
We probably got to their house around 1:30.
Were you having a good time?
Yes, we did actually. We had a really good time. It was actually our first night out alone since the time they got married, because she is not allowed to go out alone.
What do you mean she's not allowed to go out alone?
It always has to be in a group setting, or he has to be there.
Had you socialized before she got married?
Yes, we were, besides being cousins, we were really good friends. We always went out before they got married. Once they got married, that stopped.
Did Mrs. Morales turn her phone off?
You know, I'm not sure if she did, but I know she did receive a call from him several times.
Did she take the calls?
Once, when we were about 5 minutes away from their house. She did answer the phone. It was him, and I can tell at that point that something was wrong because she looked frightened, and the way she was speaking was not, I mean, I can tell something was wrong.
Did you speak to your wife before she got home?
No. I
Did
didn't.
not?
The phone was off up until she got home, and I showed her that the phone was off once she got inside, and I actually was angry and broke the phone because it was off.
How did you break the phone?
I threw it.
Where were your children?
They were in the bedroom.
Up or sleeping?
Up.
So what happened when you came home?
As we were driving down the street where they live on, I can see him coming out. He must have been looking in the window, or I don't know, because I can see him pulling towards the street.
What are you pulling towards the street? He was in his car?
I mean, walking towards the street.
Okay.
And I was driving in, and he opened the door just like he said. He pulled her out. He yelled at her first and said, "Are you crazy? You're married." Then turned to me and said, you ruined us. And was yelling, and he was out of control, very angry. I didn't say anything. I just I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I was frightened. And he kicked my car twice within maybe a 2-minute gap.
You have pictures of the damage to the car?
I do. As a matter of fact, my car was 3 weeks old when he did this, so I was very upset. Brand new car.
Yes, sir.
When I got my wife out of the car, I expected this whole thing to be about maybe something resulting from slamming the car door. I did not stand there and kick anything. The whole process of taking her out of the car, I did say things that I shouldn't have said, but I did not kick the car. I slammed the extent of what I did to that car was slamming the car door. If I had damaged something, I was furious. I was furious.
Furious.
I was.
So furious, sir, that you couldn't control your temper inside your house, and you took the cell phone and you broke it inside the house with 3 children, at least 3 children, home and awake, according to you at 2:30 in the morning. According to her, it was 1:30. According to you, 2:30 in the morning.
Yes, ma'am.
You couldn't control yourself sufficiently in front of your children. So you expect me to believe that she dented her own car? Why would she dent her own car, a 3-week-old car? Why do you think she would do that?
She lives in, I have no doubt in my mind, she lives in a apartment complex with underground parking. Yeah. I haven't seen the damage.
Oh, well, show it to him. Show it to him. This didn't come from another car, sir.
Oh, and
this didn't come from another car.
Can I say something? He's seen the damage because I mailed him pictures and a letter about 2 weeks after.
Have you spoken to your cousin since?
No. I called her the next day because I was concerned. I wanted to know. I left her a message on her cell phone. I just wanted to...
She hasn't called you back?
No, I don't know if she's avoiding them, but he denies her every time someone calls.
Mr. Morales, it's not my job to be a therapist, sir. And if you've got your wife so intimidated that she has a fear of maintaining contacts that she's had all of her life, like her cousin, that's very unfortunate. I certainly wouldn't let you do that to me. The fact that you have no interest in going out and socializing with friends is your business. If your wife, every once in a while, needs to get away from the pressures of a full-time job and taking care of 4 children, she's entitled to do that and blow off some steam every once in a while. Don't you think so, Mr. Morales?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the problem whether she's married or not? Where did you think she was at 1 o'clock in the morning? Did you think she was out sleeping with somebody else?
No, ma'am.
No.
But it's not a
she...
matter of the marriage. This was a matter of, all it takes is one mistake of drinking and driving, and it changes everything for my kids.
They got home fine, Mr. Morales.
They had been drinking.
They got home fine. Then you wait until the next day, and you say to your wife, you know, it was dangerous last night. You know, you were drinking, Diana was drinking. I told you I'd be more than happy to come pick you up. You really had me worried. That's not what happened, sir. Mr. Morales, what happened is you lost your temper.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I had no problem paying for the loan, assuming that she would do what she could to help me out.
What you wanted her to do, sir, is to lower your child support payments.
Right.
So that you could pay for this hobby craft.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diana Rodriguez says her cousin's husband, Alex Morales, kicked a dent into the side of her car. Alex says Diana took his wife out for a night on the town and brought her home drunk.
How many times in the last 4 years has your wife been out for an evening alone without you?
Within 5 times. Not very often.
Not very often. With friends or off to an emergency room? It's a simple question. With friends?
Co-workers.
Co-workers?
Yes.
Out for an evening?
No.
4 or 5 times? For what?
No, after work, a dinner, banquets, things like that, but not to go out clubbing.
You think going out with her cousin is going out clubbing?
Yes.
She picked him. She may be happy with him.
And
if not, it's not your business. Can I see the estimate to fix your car, please? To take out your frustration on Miss Rodriguez's brand new car. In order to fix her car, it's going to cost $2,600. She probably has insurance to cover it. There's absolutely no reason for her to have to submit this to her insurance because of your hissy fit. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,600. That's all.
Call center supervisor Penny Davis is suing the father of her son, car rental manager Jerome Jimison, for a loan to buy a motorcycle. Jerome says Penny was supposed to use her child support money to make payments.
Ms. Davis, the defendant is pay for this hobby craft. That's what you want. Listen to me. Listen to me, sir. If you said to me, Judge, I needed a way to get to work, and if I couldn't get to work, I couldn't pay child support. This is my mode of transportation. I'd have a little sympathy for you. That's not what you're saying to me. You're saying to me, this is a hobby. I have another car that I use for work.
I don't actually own a car.
I don't care how you get to work. I don't care if you get to work by subway or if you get to work by trolley.
Okay.
This is not your mode of transportation to work. So if you lost your job and you had to replace a job with a job where you were making less money, the answer isn't cutting your child support payments, sir. The answer is getting rid of your... I'm speaking. The answer is getting rid of your hobby. You don't say to her, take less money, agree to take less money so that I can make the payments, because that's what you said in your answer. I said to myself, I'm not getting this right.
Well, let me try
He wants to reduce his child support, and she said no. So let me read it here. Let me read it here so I got it. I should have it exactly. She agreed to make the payments out of the child support that I was giving her.
Out of the additional child support.
There's no additional child support, sir. There's no additional child support. You moved for a downward modification. Because you moved for a downward modification.
Right.
The downward modification was denied.
Correct.
So there's no extra child support. She didn't get extra child support. You didn't like the computation with your new job. And your new job, according to the federal guidelines, probably said there's a low end and a high end. And they said to you, whatever it is, you're going to pay the high end.
Right.
Been there,
Okay.
done that. Now you have a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,544.
Judy?
Sell the motorcycle. Goodbye and good luck. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Your Honor, this is case number 198 on the calendar in the matter of Rose versus Mashoud. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Rose, you rented a room from the defendant, and according to your complaint, you were forced to move out early.
Yes.
You want prorated rent.
Yes.
You certainly want your security deposit back. And you want compensation for what you say were very nasty things that the defendant posted about you on the internet.
That's correct.
The defendant says that you chose to move out. You don't get compensated for choosing to leave before the end of the 30 days. That your cat did some damage to the rug, so you don't get your security back. And she acknowledges she wrote nasty things about you on the internet, but she said everything she wrote about you was the truth, and the truth is a perfect defense.
That's very true.
When did you move into this room, Ms. Rose?
On May 1st. On April 22nd, I answered an ad.
Do you recall what it said?
It said that I was going to be a roommate, that it was $400 for the rent, that she had 3 cats, and 1 more would be great. And
no, just a second. That's not what the ad said.
Yes, it did. It said she had 3 cats and 1 more would be great.
Oh, that's what the ad said?
Yes.
It must be a very long ad. Where was it?
Craigslist.com.
.org. .org. Correction. Tell me what happened when you went and looked in the house.
It was 11 o'clock at night. She said that it was dirty, but she would clean it, and that the hot water in the sink was broken, the pipe, but she would fix it before I moved in, and the toilet that I was renting out with the bathroom was broken as well, but that would be fixed as well.
How many rooms did you look at?
3 different rooms, and this is the one that I chose.
This is the one that had a broken sink, a broken toilet, and was filthy. Is the one that you chose, Miss Rose?
Actually, it was the rent. It was cheaper than normal. Others were asking for $650, so I figured I was only going to be here till the summer. It should not be an issue.
Was the toilet fixed?
No, the toilet was never fixed, and neither was the hot water, which I had to eat out because I couldn't wash dishes. There were maggots in the sink. There were roaches, flies.
Who else lived in the house?
It was supposed to be just myself and Sheena, and she brought her crackhead mother in, who has no teeth and has tattoos everywhere, who she failed to mention was an ex-convict who had been in jail for 12 years for a violent crime. Not only that, but...
Just a second. When you moved in May 1st, was her mother there?
No, her mother was not there.
When did her mother move in?
Her mother started coming by in the middle of May and started hanging out, bringing her other crackhead friends who had no teeth.
I'm a dentist's daughter. Let's not talk about the teeth. Let's talk about the drugs.
Okay.
What makes you think that she was using crack?
Because I came home the night before I moved out, and her friend were smoking crack in the living room.
That would give me a clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was your mother incarcerated for, Miss Mashoud?
I believe it was theft, and she violated her parole several times.
She violated her parole because of her drug use?
No, it had to do with the fact that she wasn't seeing her probation officer like she was supposed to when she was released early.
Listen, if you're released early and you want to stay out of jail, unless you're involved with drugs, you usually see your probation officer.
Well, actually, the problem was that she moved back to Colorado without asking her probation officer, and she stayed out there for 3 years.
Well, that would be a problem.
Yes, obviously, as the rule was that she was supposed to keep in contact.
How long was she incarcerated?
I'm not sure. I never lived with my mom as a child, so.
When was she released from prison?
At least 5 years ago.
How come she started to come to your house?
Because I previously, before she had ever moved in, had paid my mom to come to my house to clean my apartment because I work 18-hour days. I have 2 different jobs. I work a bar job at night, and during the day I'm a special effects makeup artist. I work very hard, and I don't have time to spend, even if it is 4 hours that I get to sleep, to spend cleaning up my apartment.
You mean there's nobody else that could clean your apartment other than your mother?
Well, I don't trust anybody else to come into my apartment because I have many things that are worth a lot of money.
So what you're telling me is you trust your mother?
Yes, I do.
The mother who she says, and I believe her,
yes,
invited somebody into your home and they were smoking dope in your house.
Nobody else other than my mom was invited into my home.
Well, she did. Bring somebody else into your home.
I had never seen the person.
Well, I'm telling you, she did. She did, so your judgment wasn't very good. In choosing your mother, listen to me, your judgment wasn't very good in choosing your mother to clean your house.
I believe my judgment was just fine. Aside from the fact that she had been incarcerated before, it doesn't mean that she would do anything like that again.
Well, but she brought somebody, listen to me,
mother.
she brought somebody into your house and they were smoking
There's
dope
no
in
proof
your
of that.
house.
Who is that?
I believe her.
I'm glad you believe her, but I don't know that that's true. I know that my mom has not been on drugs for many years. I know that she does have permanent psychosis because of doing drugs for many years, and that is true. But she is not a current drug user, otherwise I wouldn't bring her into my house because I wouldn't trust her around my stuff personally.
Ms. Michoud, that's your problem. You want to
Yes,
have
it
this
is.
unabiding faith in your mother, with whom you say you never resided when you were growing up,
That's
who was
true.
incarcerated most of that time. That's up to you. I absolutely, 100% believe her when she says that she came home the day before she moved out and your mother was in the house smoking dope, which, as far as I'm concerned, gives her the right to leave in the middle of the month.
Well,
I'm speaking. What day of the month did you move out?
It was the 18th.
So you want prorated rent for the 12 days that you weren't there?
That's correct.
Okay, and how much does that come to?
$146.50.
My mother had not moved in at that point. She was a guest of mine.
Excuse me?
Shh! Listen to me. She doesn't. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Michoud. She doesn't. Listen. Try to listen. I know you got a lot going on in your hair and your face, everything else, but try to pay attention. She doesn't have to live in your house. You have invited a guest into your home, your mother, who was involved in behavior that I believe could have endangered someone else who was living in the house. If the police had come to your house and found your mother and someone else in possession of crack cocaine in your house, everyone in the house would have been involved in that drug sweep. So she was very smart to move out. And since you have acknowledged that you invited your mother into the house for the purposes of cleaning, you can't say she had no right to move. She did have a right to move. And since you invited this problem into your house, you have to compensate her for the 12 days in rent that she did not have use and enjoyment of her room.
Well,
that's my ruling. You may not like it. That's why
She
you
failed to
go
mention
to
that her boyfriend
that's
is a
why
speed addict,
I'm speaking.
and he's in
listen,
my and he was
listen
staying
to
in
me.
my house.
Listen to me very
For the
carefully.
whole time she was there.
Listen to me very carefully, madam. I don't know where else you work or what else you do to enhance your senses, but in my courtroom, I speak, I listen.
Obviously, you don't listen very well.
You don't. I'm listening. You're not hearing what I'm saying because you don't like the answer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm not going to ask her how she's going to establish that you committed the kinds of sex acts that she attributes to you because it's really
to how she meets
unseemly.
random men
Suffice,
on
I'm
the internet.
speaking.
And later today,
Somebody standing there with an open door, primping, while I'm waiting to get into a parking space, would rile the hell out of me. I can't even tell you what it would do to my husband.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jenny Rose says ex-roommate Sheena Michoud owes for the return of rent and a security deposit. Jenny also claims Sheena slandered her via the internet.
How much is your security?
$200. I have a copy of the sublease as well.
Can I see it, please?
And I have a copy of the letter she told me to vacate immediately.
Okay.
She wanted me to pay for her mother's rent for the next month.
Listen. Did you write this letter? There will be a $500 rent increase for your bedroom and private bathroom starting July 1st. Did you write this?
Yes, that's what
All right, good.
Hutchinson told me to do.
$146.50 and $200 for your security deposit. Do you have any pictures of the ruined rug that was allegedly caused by her cats?
No, but
Good. Now I would like to see what was written on the internet.
This is a networking site that my coworkers, my supervisors and boss, as well as my family and friends read. I was contacted by one of my coworkers.
Well, the one thing I do know for sure, Miss Michoud, is that you have a filthy mouth.
Thank you.
And I assume that you work in this town?
Yes, I do.
Good. I certainly hope that enough people, since we do have a reasonable audience in this town, watch this and know that I personally am offended that a woman would use the kind of vulgarities that you do written. I don't think, quite frankly, Miss Rose, that any fair-minded, reasonable person would accept anything that you wrote here as true.
Oh, of course not.
Because she clearly is a demented, sick girl. I don't know how she finds work in this town, but clearly there are
She
a lot of
doesn't work.
demented, sick people who want demented, sick employees. That's the problem here sometimes. I can't judge that. Clearly, this is miserable. I'm not going to ask her how she's going to establish to my satisfaction that you committed the kinds of sex acts that she attributes to you, because certainly you don't want that, and I wouldn't, because it's really unseemly. Suffice, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Am I going to speak at all this?
No, go speak outside. Somebody who wants to hear you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $346.50. Thank you.
Toodles. I had invited my mother over to clean my house while I was on vacation, and she accused my mom of being a thief.
Those who look like trash and act like trash are usually trash.
She's been nothing but a terror to me, pretty much like a little yipping chihuahua.
I'm glad I don't have to deal with her crackhead mother and the fact that she has no teeth and thinks she's a lot, which she's not. So it's good. I'm happy.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hardison versus Jarvis. Step forward.
Crystal Hardison is suing fellow motorist Robert Jarvis for vandalizing her Ford Explorer by kicking it. Crystal claims her mother witnessed the incident.
Ms. Hardison, what kind of car do you drive?
It's a 2005 Ford Explorer.
What about you, Mr. Jarvis?
95 Mitsubishi Galant.
What was the date of this incident?
June 2nd.
And you were going into a drugstore to get a prescription filled?
Exactly.
And what were you going to do there, Mr. Jarvis?
I was pulling in to get her my fiance a drink and a candy bar.
Was she with you?
Yes.
And you were both going to the same store, so you pulled in first.
Yes.
And it is your claim that Mr. Jarvis intentionally not only spit on your car, but also dented it.
Yes.
Mr. Jarvis says he might have spit on it, not intentionally, but he certainly didn't dent it. And your mother was with you.
Exactly. And my 11-month-old son.
Well, he's not here to testify, but your mother certainly is. When you went into the store, Miss Hardison, your mother remained in the car.
Exactly.
And when you went into the store, did your fiancée remain in the car?
Yes, ma'am.
She pulled in first.
She was already parked.
Tell me what she was doing, Mr. Jarvis.
Well, as I was pulling in, I was waiting on her for about 2 to 3 minutes while she was brushing her hair with the door open in the parking place.
So you were waiting to pull in because she had the big door open for this SUV, brushing her hair.
Yes, ma'am.
How long were you waiting?
2 to 3 minutes tops.
Did you honk the horn?
No, I was just sitting there waiting to get in, being patient.
Why were you brushing your hair?
I'm pretty vain. So before I go anywhere, I always put my makeup on, brush my hair.
You were going to pick up a prescription.
Exactly. And that's my nature. If I'm going to a local store, I'll put clothes on, do my hair, and put my makeup on.
Hadn't you done all that before you went in?
I sure
Before
did,
you
but
got
I
into
just
the
wanted
car?
to make sure everything was straight.
Didn't you see Mr. Jarvis waiting for you?
At the time that I opened my door to get my brush out my purse, no, I didn't.
But there came a time when you did see him waiting for you.
I saw a front end of a car behind mine, yes.
And you continued to finish brushing your hair and then you put the brush back?
No. Once I saw the front end of the car, I said, oh, he's waiting, and I closed my door and went directly into CVS.
What happened when you came out?
I got to my driver's side door, and I saw there was spit on the window. I opened my door. I said, Mom, somebody spit on my window. And she can tell you the rest.
Step up, please. What is your last name?
Durante.
Tell me what happened that day on the 2nd of June in the parking lot.
Okay, on the 2nd of June, my daughter had to go to the pharmacist to pick up a prescription. And she got out of the car, opened the passenger side.
We got past the fact that she was brushing her hair to make sure she looked perfect. Okay. Never know who you're going to meet in the pharmacy.
Exactly.
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, Crystal came out. She says, Mom, who spit on my car? I said, don't worry. I got his tag number. I was sitting in the car on the passenger side watching an incident on Route 1 to my right, and I see this man walk up to the car and just cover the window with spit. I said, I'm going to get his tag number. I went to get my purse. When I went down to get my purse, the whole car just like, yes. I looked up, I saw him, I heard his door, bam, slam. He was going, he closed his door and walked behind his car and got into the driver's side.
Okay, so a passenger door slam, and then he walked around to get into the driver's side?
Yes.
And the passenger side door was where your car was?
Yes.
Got it. Now, do you have any proof of damage to your car?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Because, Mr. Jarvis, I'm going to save you the trouble, sir. According to your answer, you were having sinus problems that day, so
Yes,
you
ma'am.
spit.
Yes.
You don't know where it landed.
No, I didn't have no intention of spitting on a vehicle. No.
It was just a bad sinus.
Yes, I had sinuses all
And
like that.
you caused no damage to the plaintiff's car.
Absolutely not.
Now I'd like to see the. Okay. See, I'm going to saved you all that trouble.
Your car's green.
My car's green.
But your boot isn't damaged.
And besides, my car door don't go that high.
It may not have been your car, sir.
And I was never on that side of the vehicle. I was driving.
Mr. Jarvis, what you're asking me to do is to say to this lady that she's lying. Now, common sense, which is really what we're about here, suggests to me that you were annoyed at this young lady.
No, actually, I wasn't.
Well,
I was being patient.
Well, listen. Then you are the only one I know who, under those circumstances, wouldn't be annoyed. I would be infuriated.
But to be cussed and belligerent.
Just a minute. I would be infuriated if I was sitting there patiently and somebody was not just putting a baby in a car, because that you wait for, you know, adjusting a car seat or whatever, but somebody standing there with an open door, primping and brushing their hair while I'm waiting to get into a parking space would rile that out of me. I can't even tell you what it would do to my husband.
Could I speak?
Sure.
Could I have her come up?
If you want to.
I'd just like to say that night when the police contacted us, the only thing that they said was that he spit on the window. When he called back to the police department, the police officer said that this was ridiculous and dropped it. 30 days later, we received it stating that there was damage. Why that night? Was there no record at the police department?
I have no idea. Maybe they couldn't see it.
And she drove all the way home and the spit stayed on the window?
Listen to me.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Does she listen to me?
Free
dear.
money. That's
I'm
what they're
speaking.
trying to get.
Does she look psychotic to you? No, listen to me. Not the daughter who was primping, who has to comb her hair before she goes to pick up a prescription. I'm talking about her mother.
I'm going to tell you, I'm a nurse. People are psychotic all the time and they don't look
Listen
it.
to me. Well, listen. I've been around twice as long as you have. This lady is not psychotic. This lady did not take down your tags and report this matter to the police because she was having a psychotic episode. That's my judgment. Now, let me see how much it costs to fix your car.
Okay. I have two estimates.
You have a 10-year-old car.
$578 for Windex is a little ridiculous.
Oh, it has nothing to do with Windex?
There's no dent caused by him. That is definite.
That's just trying to get free money, is what it is.
I never got out that car, so nobody was ever on that side of the car at any point. I was in that passenger side of that car.
Nobody suggested that you did any damage to the car, madam. Cheaper of the estimate is $369.80. Is that right?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $369.80. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 219 on the calendar in the matter of Ergenson versus Lindner. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Urgenson, it is your claim that Mr. Lindner's employees vandalized your house and your car. And Mr. Lindner says he wasn't there. As far as he's concerned, there is no proof that his employees did anything to your house and your car. Who do you live with, sir?
Myself and my two daughters.
How old are your daughters?
17 and 19.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm an electrical contractor.
And you have a restaurant?
Yes.
Sometime in July, according to what I read, you ordered some food from Mr. Lindner's establishment. Have you ordered from him before?
Many a times.
What did you order?
Antipasta salad and a turkey sandwich.
And did they deliver it?
Yes.
Remember what date that was?
The 22nd is the date of this, yes.
No, the
22nd
date of the first
is when,
order.
Well, what happened
for a
was
sandwich and a salad.
we ordered a couple times and asked for extra Italian dressing prior to that.
Well, I understand that,
Okay.
sir. I read the complaint. I read your complaint very carefully. Sometime before this incident, you had ordered a sandwich and a salad.
Which was 2
with
weeks before.
That's what I want to know.
Thank you.
2 weeks before this incident. And you had ordered a sandwich and a salad with extra dressing for the salad. What kind of extra dressing did you want?
Italian dressing. A couple extra cups.
And had you ordered that before?
Yeah.
And had they always accommodated you before?
Yes.
Who was the salad and the sandwich for?
Me and my daughter. Actually, my oldest daughter.
Who was eating the salad? Who was eating the sandwich? Who were you sharing?
Share it.
And your order came, and they didn't send the extra dressing.
They didn't send any dressing.
So you called back the restaurant. And what did you say to them?
I asked them, they didn't bring me any dressing. I talked to one of their guys in there, He said, we're very sorry. We'll be out in 10 minutes. And I said, please do, because I don't want to wait another 40 minutes for like I had to wait for my order. I want the salad dressing right away. No problem, sir. We'll be right out there. Waited about 40 minutes, almost an hour. Nobody showed up at my door. I called and I said, can I talk to the manager? And he says, I am the manager. I said, well, I've been waiting for my dressing now an hour. They didn't bring me any. Well, I didn't know. He said, I didn't know anything about it. We have no drivers anymore. They all went home. And I got angry with him. I said, well, I want a credit on my food then. And he said he wasn't going to give me full credit. And I said, I would like full credit for $12. I couldn't eat anything.
You couldn't eat the sandwich?
Not by that time, because we normally put the salad dressing on the sandwich, too. That's why we order extra for the salad and the sandwich. The girls like it. They like the extra vinegar and stuff. So we got mad. The manager hung up on me. I tried to call back. Nobody answered. Nobody answered. So I let it go. And about 2 weeks later, I ordered the same meal. And when the driver got there, I said, we have a credit, and I shut the door.
Very grown up of you.
Yeah.
You think that was right?
Come see, come saw.
What is come see, come saw?
Well, I had a credit.
Do you think,
I mean, the guy agreed he was going to pay me half the credit.
No. Listen to me, sir.
Okay.
You didn't have a credit. You said you wanted a credit.
No, the manager also told me he was going to give me a credit on the salad, but not the sandwich.
That's right. That's what you just told me. He
Right.
said, well, we will certainly, sir, give you a credit on the salad, because if you run the kind of house where you don't have any dressing at all in your house for 3 adults, if you can't eat the salad, we're sorry about that, but we're not going to give you a credit on the sandwich. You decided you wanted a credit on both. So when you took your food and slammed the door in the driver's face, which is what you just told me that you did, that was the wrong thing to do.
Okay.
There were a lot of other things that you could have done other than stiff the driver. Because
Well, it wasn't the driver, it was the pizza.
No, it's the driver. Because they're giving them the food, and when they come back and he says, listen, we went to somebody's house and they wouldn't give us any money, either one of two things happen. Either they say, well, we're taking it out of your money, or they call you. Did they call you?
No.
So you don't know whether the driver got stiffed with your $12 meal. Anyway, Mr. Ergenson, it was very immature of you. And what I'm surprised about is, evidently you are a single father raising 2 children. It would seem to me that you would have enough to occupy your plate other than engaging yourself in these petty little situations that cause nothing but problems for people. Are you telling me that your girls are so perfect that you have nothing else to worry about? Or maybe they're not so perfect that you got plenty to worry about, that you were taking it out on some stranger.
No, my girls are plenty perfect. They're very
They're
good
plenty
girls.
perfect. Well, then there's something wrong with you.
Okay.
All right. Now,
For a single father that runs a business for 20 years and raises 2 girls since they've been 2 and 4, I think I'm pretty good.
well, then I want to tell you something. If your girls are perfect and you run a nice business and you don't have enough to do with your time, I'd start volunteering a little bit more, because this business is ridiculous, petty baloney. So now what you're complaining about is that the next day,
No.
2 days later,
No.
that night,
That night, I had 4 guys come to my house and try to strong-arm me for $12 at my door and threaten to ask me to come outside so we can take care of outside.
okay.
And I
so
shut
you
the
had,
door in their face.
So this little escapade of yours, then 4 people came back to your
Yeah.
house
To threaten me
and
from
wanted
this
the
place.
12, just a second, and said they wanted the $12, and
Yeah.
again, you slammed the door in their
No,
face.
I told them I have a credit. I said, where's the manager? The guy, this one over here, says, I am the manager. And I said, you're the manager from the place? Well, great. Do you remember this? He says, no. And the other guy that's not here today says, oh, you were the one that complained about the salad dressing. I said, so you know about it. You know what happened 2 weeks ago. He said, yes. And I said, okay, then you have a credit with me. If you have a problem, tell the owner to call me. We'll deal with it in court. If you want to sue me for 12, sue me for 12. So that's how it happened.
Volunteer.
They threatened me in my house.
Volunteer. It was a stupid thing to do. Should have written it off. You understand?
Yes.
You're dealing with somebody who's got a little too much time on his hands and a little bit too much aggression in his gut.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was up a whole night and frightened because her father acted like a jerk. That's why she was up all night, because her father acted like a big baby.
And later today,
You're not supposed to fib anytime, especially not when you're in court, because that's a fib. If your mother doesn't know it's a fib, I know it's a fib.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mitchell Ergenson says pizza parlor owner Stephen Lindner owes for vandalism to his truck. Mitchell claims Stephen's employees doused it with salad dressing.
First of all, Mr. Ergenson, when you order a salad with dressing and a sandwich, the sandwich doesn't come with Italian dressing. So what you're doing is saying, when I asked you, well, why couldn't you eat the sandwich? You said, we'd like to put the dressing on the sandwich. You're not entitled to that. You're not entitled to that.
But
the sandwich comes alone.
Yeah.
The dressing comes with a salad. You want dressing for your sandwich, go to the store and buy a bottle of dressing so you have dressing for the sandwich.
But it's not the same dressing. Their salad dressing has their own taste and their own life. It's like when you go to different restaurants. When you go into different restaurants, do you like different salad dressings that different restaurants serve you?
Mr. Ergenson, listen
That's
to me
what
very
happened.
carefully, sir.
Okay.
Then you don't say, send me extra dressing for the sandwich that I'm not entitled to. You say, I'm prepared to pay you extra to send me extra dressing because I like dressing on my
If
sandwich.
they said it cost extra, I would have been happy to pay for it.
Did you? Just a second.
Happy to pay for it.
You were getting something for nothing. You wanted something for nothing. You're
No,
not
I did
entitled
not.
to that.
No, I did not.
Mr. Ergenson, you're a big baby.
Okay.
That doesn't
Thank
mean
you.
you're a big baby.
Thank you.
That doesn't mean your people were entitled to vandalize his house. Now, Mr. Ergenson, I will take a look at the photographs of your house.
And my car.
And your car.
And I have the cups that they used.
I don't care about the
All
cups that
right,
they
and I have a
used.
new cup too. But shows in the pictures. And I also have repairs that you might want to see.
Let me see the bills. Mr. Lindner, the way to respond to someone who is behaving in an immature way is not to stoop to their level. There isn't a question in my mind, after examining these photographs, that this vandalism to the plaintiff's house was done by someone in your employ or in the employ of the restaurant. No question. You get me?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah. Now, I don't know whether you went home. I don't know whether they said, listen, he deserves it. What he did was he was acting like a baby, acting like a big baby. But you don't take the law into your own hands and commit a crime.
Absolutely not.
You want to file a police report and say he stole food from me? That's your prerogative. He did. It would be no different from him coming into a restaurant, having a meal, and getting up and leaving. And saying, well, the last time I was here, I didn't have a good meal. And I wanted a credit, and they wouldn't give me a credit. So this time, I'm enjoying my meal, but I'm not paying for it. No different. What he did was, he stole from you. And for that, oh, yes, you did, sir. There is no difference from what you did than if you walked into their restaurant or walked into a... I'm speaking. No difference than if you went into a restaurant, ate, didn't like the meal, they wouldn't give you a credit. And a week later, go back to the same restaurant, order the same meal, and get up and leave. And if the police came, they would have arrested you for theft of services, because that's what it is. They still had no right to vandalize your house. Do you understand?
Yes.
You don't resort to that sort of behavior because he acted like a jerk.
And came to my house and threatened me in my house.
No, ma'am.
And my daughter will attest to all that, too.
Listen, I don't want to get your daughter involved. It's bad enough she had
Well,
to
she
be
was
involved. It's
frightened
bad
that
enough
whole
she had to be involved with it
She was
because of
frightened
your
the whole night
stupidity.
from these guys doing this.
No, listen
Yeah,
to me.
she was.
Listen to me. She was up a whole night and frightened because her father acted like a jerk.
Okay.
That's why she was up all night, because her father acted like a big baby. Cost you $229.23. Is that right?
And lost wages in my work.
Well, that's too bad. Counted lost wages in for acting like a jerk. They're not allowed to vandalize your property. Cost you $229. I hope it felt good. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Just 1 second. $229.23 less 12. $217.23. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Apparently, I didn't bring him his dressings, which I did offer to bring back, which he did not want.
I just wanted my order the way it should have. When they didn't bring me any, I was a little upset.
He yelled at me for a good 6 minutes or so in the middle of the street.
About principle.
I just think it's about respect between customer and business.
He was enraged, and he slammed the door in my face, and that was it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of White versus York. Step forward, please.
Lisa White is suing business owner Susan York for the cost to repair her vehicle. Lisa claims Susan's son, 8-year-old Dylan, hit it with a rock.
Miss White, it is your complaint that Miss York's little boy, I assume this little boy, was throwing rocks in the street, and one of the rocks hit your car, causing some damage.
That's correct.
And you want his mother to pay for the damage. Miss York says she doesn't think her son was responsible for that. He was merely rolling rocks, although she wasn't there. She says that it was really your conduct that was outrageous on that day. So tell me when this happened.
It was approximately 7 to 7:15 in the morning on May 12th. I was on my way to work. I was traveling down East Yacht Drive.
Where is that?
It's in Oak Island, North Carolina. As I approached the intersection where the children were, they were in the street.
How many children were in the street?
Approximately 5, 2 boys and 2 or 3 girls.
I assume they were waiting for the school bus?
That's correct.
Okay.
As I approached, I noticed that they were playing in the street, so I slowed down. They moved to the shoulder of the intersection. One little boy was throwing stones into the other empty lot across the street, and as I approached, Dylan threw a rock at my car, and I heard it hit.
You saw him do that?
Yes, ma'am.
So you stopped your car, and what did you do?
I got out, and I'm like, you, come here, what's your name? And I said, look at what you've done to my car. I said, where do you live? He said, down the street. I said, you get in my car, and I'm taking you to your mother to show her what you're doing at the bus stop. Well, he had extra stones in his other hand, and he threw those down. I said, no, you pick those up, you put them in my car, and we're going now. So he got into the car, and I took him straight to his mother's house. I told him to go upstairs and take the stones with him to show whoever was there. I didn't know which parent was home. I said, take those and show them what you've been throwing at my car, and send them downstairs to talk to me. And she came down to talk with me.
And what did she say?
Well, she asked him, did he do it? And why did you do that? I told you not to throw stones. I told her.
What did he say?
He's like, well, it was an accident. I'm like, no, it was not. I saw him do it.
He said to his mother it was an accident.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Stand up next to your mother. Dylan, how could it be an accident if you were throwing the stones?
I was rolling them across the road, and she was going like 70.
Dylan, I don't want your nose to get long. I want you to tell me how it's an accident that stones that you were rolling on the ground hit somebody's car.
I rolled it, it bounced up on another
You rolled it and it bounced up? A rock?
It hit another rock and it bounced.
That's a fib, Dylan. You're not supposed to fib anytime, especially not when you're in court, because that's a fib. If your mother doesn't know it's a fib, I know it's a fib. You and your friends were throwing rocks, right?
Yes.
And one of the rocks hit her car.
Yes.
See how easy that was?
Yes.
What your complaint is, Miss York, and one that I quite frankly find compelling, is that Miss White exercised very poor judgment in putting your son into her car.
This is correct.
Because I don't think North Carolina is any different from any other place in this country. You don't take somebody else's child and put them in your car. That's very poor judgment, Miss White. I don't think there would have been anything wrong in you saying, if you live right down the street, you go right home, I'm going to follow you, so that you would know where he lived. But you don't take anybody else's child and put them in your car. Now, can I see a picture of the damage to your car?
I do have a photo, but you cannot see the actual dents or chips in the car, in the paint.
Well, it should just be one.
No, there's actually several. I have a police report stating that the officer noted 6 chips areas.
Well, he didn't chip it 6 times. He threw 1 rock. That's according to you.
He had several stones in his other hand. I don't know how many stones actually hit.
I don't know how many children were involved in throwing stones, but you said to me, I saw him throw a stone. I heard it hit my car. There's a difference in hearing 1 or hearing 6.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Mm-hmm.
When she drove to my house, I saw 1 little dot, and then in return, it ended up being dents. I never saw a dent. She even herself said it probably won't be much.
Well, what she's suing you for is $300.
Yes, ma'am.
Which isn't much. I think what your complaint is, quite frankly, despite the fact that I read your answer, and your answer gave me the same malarkey that he was rolling stones. Children don't roll stones. They throw stones at cars. And that's what he did, because that's what he just told me he did.
Right, yes, ma'am.
So you're responsible, because if you want to make sure that your son doesn't do that, and I assume he's done it before, right?
Not that I'm aware of, no ma'am.
Never heard of him throwing rocks before?
Not at cars.
At anything?
I mean, he's a little boy. I guess he does throw rocks, yes.
Okay, well, if he's a little boy and he throws rocks, then you should be out there with him waiting for the school bus.
Your Honor, I would like to say when he came home from school, I had asked him what happened. And he admitted that he had been rolling rocks.
Rolling rocks doesn't...
Rolling rocks, throwing rocks, and one hit her car. And then he proceeded to show me how she forcefully put him in her car. I have a written statement for...
I don't take statements from people. She had no right to put him in the car, take him in the car, ask him to get into the car, pick him up. Absolutely no right to do that. He wasn't injured. He went off to school that day. Did you go off to school that day?
Yes.
Did you have a good day in school that day?
Yes.
So he wasn't injured, emotionally or physically. But she did the wrong thing, and I've told her she did the wrong thing. So I read her the Riot Act. You still have to pay to have a car fixed.
That's fine.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
Thank you.
Step out. It's case number 153 on the calendar in the matter of Aviton versus Zuniga. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Aviton, according to your complaint, you dated the defendant for about 6 months.
Yes.
You knew at the time that he was married.
Did not know.
Well,
I
read your complaint. So your complaint says that with regard to the cell phone that you claim that you got for him.
Yeah.
The reason that you got it, put your hand down. The reason you say you got him the cell phone was because he told you that his wife was checking on the number.
Right. There's a preface to it. I started working at the animal hospital that we were at probably in July.
Just a second. I'm going to finish my statement, then I'll get back
Sorry.
to you. In any event, he was married, you were dating him, and you claimed that you made him a series of loans. In addition, you claim that he asked you to get him a cell phone, you got him a cell phone, he ran up a bill, and he owes you the bill. Mr. Zuniga says that you got him the cell phone because you were calling him 20 times a day, and you were running up his telephone bill, that anything that you did for him was voluntary.
Yes.
There was no agreement to pay you back any of the money that you gave him. And in addition, he's counterclaiming because he says that since he and you are no longer an item, that you've been acting like a nutty lady and seriously harassing him, and he can prove it.
Right.
Okay. So, when did you first start dating the defendant?
I would say probably like the last week in July, maybe.
When did you find out that he was married?
After I started dating him.
Just a second. So, how much after? A week, 2 weeks, a month?
Probably a week or two, I would say.
Okay. But you didn't break off the relationship.
Well, I didn't break off the relationship with him because, number one, he told me that he and his wife were at dire straits, that they would be separating, and he also told me that they weren't getting along.
Well, that doesn't help much. You understood he was still married,
Correct.
Still living with his wife.
Right.
Okay. Now, let's start out with the cell phone.
The cell phone bills I have here, first of all, I didn't get him the cell phone bill because I was calling him constantly. I got him the cell phone bill because when
You got him the cell phone?
Yeah, cell phone. The time he claims I was calling him constantly, he didn't want my number showing up on his cell phone bill. So he said, should we get another cell phone? I said, I'll put another one on my account for you. And I told him, I said, but you're going to have to pay. I said, there's no reason for me to go ahead and.
Is that what happened, Mr. Zuniga?
No, that's not what happened at all. I have phone bills here from my phone company that'll
For your
show
cell
you.
phone?
Right. That'll show you all the times that she did call, and they were all calls within 1 minute to 2 minutes apart.
But you took a cell phone from her.
Yes.
Tell me why.
Because I told her, once I got my first phone bill, I told her that there were too many phone calls, that this all had to stop. This whole relationship had to stop because of all these phone calls. She didn't agree with it. So then she offered to get me a cell phone bill. She said she was going to buy me one, and then she proceeded to take her boyfriend's cell phone and give it to me.
Why in the world, within the very short time of starting to have a relationship with her, if you saw that she was behaving in an inappropriate way by calling you that number of times in a 1 or 2 day period, why did you continue the relationship?
Because I thought that maybe she would change if, I would tell her that this was becoming a nuisance. Maybe she would change it a little bit. Maybe she would stop the phone calls.
Now, where did you tell your wife you were when you were with her?
Actually, me and my wife were separated for a while.
But not all the time, Mr. Zuniga. So when you weren't separated, where did you tell your wife you were?
I would just leave. I wouldn't tell her anything. Sometimes I would tell her I was with friends, but the majority of the time I would just walk out the house.
Oh, okay. Now, you took money from her.
The only money that I took from her was the money that she used to pay my cell phone bill, which was this one.
How much money did you take?
She made a payment of $100.
All right, so what other monies, Ms. Aviton, do you claim you gave him?
Well, I have here from August 2004, on the 17th of August and the 23rd of August, we had been together that particular evening, and we had decided to go to Hollywood to get tattoos. So I had said to him, you know, I'm going to go ahead and get one. He says, well, you know, can I get this and that, and I'll repay you for it. I said, fine, no problem. Well, because of the fact that we were in a relationship, I took him at his word.
Okay, so tattoos, joint tattoos. What else?
They weren't joint. Then there's a diving mask and the leather phone case and charger for the cell phone that I got him. The phone case and the diving mask were September 15th and September 24th. Then in December was the remote control battery for the car and the satellite radio. And then in November, he asked me to buy him a CD burner. Then there is, in November again, there's window tinting on his truck that I spent $100 for as well. That was supposed to be reimbursed. And then we have the...
okay, so you gave him the first money in August. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did he pay you back that money?
None of it.
You gave him money in September?
None of it.
Shh, listen to me. You gave him money in September?
Yes.
Did he pay you back? No. And you gave him money in November?
Yes.
And when you gave him money in November, he hadn't paid back the August, September, October money?
Right.
Huh. So let me explain to you what happened. You gave him a lot of money.
Yeah, I did.
Right. So you have to cross it off. You made a mistake. Put your hand down. I didn't ask you a question. I'm not pleased with you either. We understand each other, sir?
Yes, sir. I mean, yes, ma'am.
Good. Because as far as I'm concerned, if what you did was, if you were living with your wife, and for at least part of this time you were living with your wife, and you were accepting gifts from her.
Right, but if I could...
I'm speaking. Try looking at my eyes. And if you were accepting gifts from her, that doesn't make you a nice person. Doesn't make her a nice person, doesn't make you a nice person. And it makes me the victim because I got to listen to this baloney.
Right.
You made a mistake. You had no legitimate expectation that he was going to pay you back. Maybe you thought he was going to leave his wife and you were going to be together, but you had no legitimate expectation of being paid back for a tattoo in August, in December when you loaned him yet more money.
And they weren't separated at the time. They were still living together. They lived with his sister and whoever else.
And according to you, the reason that you gave him the cell phone was that you agreed that his wife shouldn't see when you called him.
Right. But if you'll notice on these bills, he's called his old, used it for everything else.
I don't care. I'm talking about your character, not his.
Okay.
I'm talking about your character.
It was a mistake.
I'm talking about your character, not a mistake.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Get over it.
He's got a kid from another woman, and he's 3. I mean, she cheats all the time.
Are you trying to justify to me the fact that you're an idiot?
And later today...
I'm sitting there for about 10 minutes or so, and he just came up out of the garage and started hitting me in the back of the head, in the face.
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Well, that's the problem when you drink too much, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Susan Avitan says ex-boyfriend Carlos Zuniga owes for a loan and a cell phone bill. Carlos is countersuing for defamation of character.
All right, sir. Now that you understand that you have 0% of my sympathy, I'm going to hear your counterclaim.
Some time ago, this last time I changed my phone number, my cell phone number, when she tried to contact me after I changed it, she couldn't, so then she proceeded to call my wife and left a message on her voicemail stating that she was to tell me that if I think I'm a smart, what she was going to do was file a sexual harassment complaint with the city of Beverly Hills, and then she was going to call my boss and write her letter explaining everything that has happened.
She left that in a message?
Yes.
You have it?
I don't have the message. Unfortunately, we weren't able to record it.
Right.
But,
which I did not.
But I have the letter that she did write to my boss.
As well
and
as
everything is explained there, the defamation of character. I also have a record of several phone bills that she called every time she called me.
No.
Okay.
And if you take a look at these phone records, there are quite a bit of phone calls. They're all highlighted for you.
Why did you go to the police?
Do you really want me to go into the gory details?
Well, I want to know first, why don't you tell me when you went to the police?
I went to the police in April.
Shh. You went to the police in April, not while you were dating and intimate with him afterwards.
Yeah. But there's extenuating circumstances as well with that letter. I had a previous...
You were on medication.
No, I should have been.
No, you were on medication.
No.
She tried to get me fired.
I believe that she tried to get you fired.
Well, no, you know what? It wasn't that I tried to get him fired. I was let go from that job because when Carlos and I got involved, it was getting more difficult for me to work with him, obviously, right? And there was an incident in an x-ray room at the hospital that when the detectives brought him in, he lied flat out to them and told them that he didn't do it. And I have a friend that she couldn't be here today, that I told about it right after it happened.
You got fired from your job, so you tried to get him fired.
No, that's not why, because we were still dating at that point.
She also tried to get
Just a second. So what you're telling me is you were still dating and you were complaining that he sexually harassed you in an x-ray room?
No, this was after the fact.
Listen, get over it. Get over it.
Okay.
Stop acting like a baby. How old are you?
Old enough.
Then stop acting like a baby. You fool around with a married guy, you get burned. You lose money, you can lose your job, you lose your self-respect. Lots of bad things happen to you. Get over it.
If I could say one other thing, I work at Hollywood Park at the racetrack, and she also almost got me fired from there. She would call there constantly, speaking to my manager.
Oh, you're such a liar,
and then after
listen, I don't want to hear from you.
And she even had a big cookie delivered there. When she had that delivered there, right after she had it delivered, she called constantly trying to ask what my reactions were, if I had any comments.
Did you seek a restraining order against her? And what happened?
The first time we appeared in court, the judge said that it was just a whole bunch of nonsense and it was foolish. That same day, she contacted me. She called my cell phone. Throughout that month, she called me a total of probably anywhere from 10 to 18 times. When we went back to court, there was a different judge that heard the case the second time. The judge said what she was doing wasn't considered harassment, and he dropped the case. And I have a copy of the restraining order here.
I'd like to see a copy of the restraining order.
The reason he had the restraining order issued to begin with is I had also purchased some tires and rims for him that I wanted back when we had split up that he hadn't paid for. And that's
Listen to me. You bought him a bunch of presents and you got angry.
But that has nothing to do with the tires and rims.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
He had the restraining order issued to cover it up for his wife. This was a bunch of nonsense. He's been living with her the whole time that we were together. He's lying.
Listen to me. Madam, get over it.
He's got a kid from another woman, and he's 3. I mean, he cheats all the time.
Listen.
I'm not the only one.
So what? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you trying to justify to me the fact that you're an idiot?
Well, yeah, that goes without saying, but...
Are you trying to... I'm telling you, get over it. Get over it. You have no case against him. You made him a whole bunch of gifts because you liked the attention, you liked the affection, you liked the intimacy, whatever it was. He dumped you. It's over.
That's fine.
It's over. So then stop this nonsense. You're the plaintiff here. Put your hand down. Mr. Zuniga, you play with fire, you're going to get burned, sir. Don't come here asking for a court to take up time when you did the wrong thing. If you broke her heart, Mr. Zuniga, because you took advantage of her, you allowed her to buy you gifts, you allowed her to buy you rims for your car, you allowed her to buy you a CD burner, you allowed her to pay for a tattoo, you allowed her to indulge you. And all the time you knew that this was just a temporary thing. You were still living at home. You were lying to your wife. Remember what I told you 5 minutes ago?
Right.
Zero sympathy for you, sir. Courts don't help people like you.
I agree. I mean...
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He came after me. He's a liar. He's got a child from another woman that's 3 years old. He's been married for 5 years. He's been cheating on his wife since they've been married.
He worked with me. She knows my wife worked there. All the gifts that she gave me, I've asked her to take them all back, and she never did.
He would cry to me that his wife was mean to him, and I mean, he's a liar.
He's just one of those types of person that wants to buy people's feelings.
Believe me, I wouldn't do this again for a million.
Okay, hello guys, what's up? কি অবস্থা সবার? সবাই কেমন আছো guys? আশা করি ভালো আছো সবাই। চলো এখন আমাদের মারা গেছে।
উড়বে তাহলে আমাকে নেন। আসো, পিসি গেম তো রিসেট দিয়ে আসলাম। অন করেন। মুঘল ভাইয়ের কি মানে না উড়বে না তাহলে ওইদিকে বামে চলেন ডানে এনিমি
হ্যাঁ
আমার মনিটরে কোনো কাজ করে না 60 এফপিএস এর বেশি যায় না
না আমার 15-16 এরকম থাকে।
কেন এত কম কে? পিসি কেমন ভালো না?
ওয়েট ওরে
হ্যাঁ
কি
পিসি
করে
ভালো
মারবো নিজে থেকে মারবো
না পিং যত ভালো থাকে তত তো ভালো পিং হচ্ছে আমার 16-17 এরকম
না না পিং না এফপিএস এফপিএস
ও এফপিএস এফপিএস
আরে ওই পাশে এনিমি ওই পাশে
আছে
এনিমি
কত
ওই পাশে
ও
এনিমি
60 এফপিএস না আমার
এটা
মনে হয়
ড্রপ
চাপ
কেন
গাড়িতে উঠতেছে
এমনি আপাতত কি এমনি
মারেন
বেশি যায়
মারেন
নাকি
মারেন
কম
এটা খারাপ
যায়
হয়েছে মারেন
কোনটা
ऊपर के
अरे
पास तो
चॉकलेट भाई
हाँ क्या हाल चाल
टोपी दिखाओ भाई अपनी रुको
हेडशॉट मारो क्या
मार दो भाई मेरे साथ खेलो ना चॉकलेट भाई मैं भी खेल लेता थोड़ा
मैं भी इधर हूँ मैं भी
अबे किलर तो बॉट है
डर निकल नो ब्रे
एक किलर नाम का बंदा इतना बड़ा बॉट है 2 लड़की को मारता है बस
कैसे
ভাই ভয়েস কি দেখ শুনছো ইয়া কিলার
হ্যাঁ
अरे
কেমন লাগলো
सनी भाई क्या हाल चाल
ভালো
बढ़िया भाई
बढ़िया
तुम कैसे हो
चॉकलेट भाई टोपी दिखाओ
और कौन हमारे 280 डायमंड रजनी
चॉकलेट भाई
हाँ हाँ बोलो
और टोपी नहीं पहनेगा
की नेबो
अरे चॉकलेट भाई फॉर्म
अरे फुल स्क्वाड
चॉकलेट
सोलर
अरे चॉकलेट भाई मैंने तो
नहीं हुआ मैं वो मूड में नहीं था ना
ও মা গো
रिवाइव कर दो
वरना तुम्हारा
দেখে
शादी नहीं होगा
ফেলেছি হয়তো নিয়ে পালাইতেছে
উপরে গুলু মারছো ওখানে আছে নাকি
আরে ডবল ভিক্টর ভাই ওই তো ওর বাড়ির উপরে একটা
ওরে হ্যাকার দে ভর্তি লাস্ট জন তো
সব জাদুঘর ভাই
আরে এই এমুলেটরের ভিতরে ভাই এত প্যানেল ইউজ
ভাই ফ্রি ফায়ার আর ফ্রি ফায়ার না ফ্রি ফায়ার বর্তমান জাদুঘরদের গেম
তাই তো দেখতেছি
আরে বিআরে ঢুকলে 3-4টা হ্যাকার কনফার্ম কোন
3-4টা না প্রতিটা প্রতিটা
স্কোয়াডে
হ্যাকার এমন দিন আছে ভাই আমরা নিজেরা 4টা হ্যাকার না খেলি ঠিক না
হ্যাঁ একটা স্কোয়াড বানায়
ইয়ান ভাই আমার কথা শুনো কারে কি কমু আর ভাই আমার নিজের গার্লফ্রেন্ডই হলো প্যানেলে
ভাই তোমার গার্লফ্রেন্ড প্যানেল ইউজার
ভাই
এটা কিছু নাই না ভাই
এটা কি ভাই কেমন দিন এসে গেল
ওদের প্যানেল উতারে গালি দিলেও মাইন্ড করে আর কি কম আসলে কই দাও ভাই না মাইক টপ কইরাই করি
মানে গার্লফ্রেন্ড প্যানেল ওজন না
এটা কোনো কথা
ওরে এবার ক্যারিয়ার দিয়ে পুরো মাশাআল্লাহ আগের বার থেকে এটা তো 6 ছিল